Hi guys. So, reality check for a moment. One of the more common complaints I got, legitimate complaints, not negative complaints, is that my show is not professional enough. I find that statement very funny because it is absolutely true. I am an extremely casual show, aren't I? I'm very, just, hey guys, it's me. you know, what's going on? I am very tired. I was up till about 3 last night getting work done. And I woke up with the little one this morning. So I just want you to be aware that I may be completely out of it today. Just a heads up. That's also why I'm starting late. I know it's not super late, but it's still late, and I still feel bad about it. It's also why I didn't have this ready. I basically just sat down and hit go. It is 11:11. Rory, why do you ask? This is also going to be a bit of a short day in terms of streaming. Again, I hate to tell you guys that, but I actually have an appointment with the little one later. That's going to be in a few hours, so I'm hopeful we'll get at least some of the Shadowmoon Valley stuff done. There we go. And B, as you may or may not be aware, tonight I am going to see the new X-Men movie. So, kind of looking forward to that. I know that sounds weird, looking forward to something. So hi Rory, hi Psychotic, hi Gnarlex, hi Takoda, hi Greywolf, hi Tahel, hi Warwager, hi Samurai. Samurai, I have something to share with you you may or may not find funny. So, I have introduced the little one, little mini Zan, to Kingdom Hearts. No, not on the PS2. No, not on the 3DS. No, not on the PSP. No, not on the PS3. On the phone. That Unchained game, she has proven quite adept at it. So the last, 10 quests I did were actually her doing it. Which I find extremely amusing. Successfully, I feel like pointing out. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Controls so simple a 3-year-old can use them is not something I'm fully aware of being a positive or a negative. Hello, Big Ben. Alright, so I beg your indulgence today, guys, because I know we talked a lot about the gameplay decisions of Warlords over the past couple of days, and the garrisons, and all that stuff. Today, I really want to just focus on the actual lore. Some of the stuff they actually got right with Warlords. I hope that's okay with everyone. Lord knows, and I myself admit this, that they really screwed up a lot of things in Warlords, and I've listed a lot of things they've screwed up in Warlords. But in my personal opinion, the lore overall is something they didn't screw up, despite the alternate timeline thing, the alternate dimension, alternate timeline. Despite that, despite the fact that they screwed up some gameplay things, despite the fact that there was the writer issues between the two groups, the writing in the 90 to 100 quest arcs, with two exceptions, is pretty spot on, I think. And we get to learn a lot about the Draenei, we get to learn a lot about the Orcs, we get to learn a lot about Draenor, the old Gorian Empire. We get to learn a lot about the nature of how the Titans work on other worlds. We get to learn a lot about all sorts of stuff. So there's a lot of really good world building here, and I hope you'll enjoy it with me. Two exceptions. One of them is in Talador. I bet most of you know which one that is. The other one, well, basically has to do with Tanan. That's Charlie, by the way, who I'm talking to there. Feel free to say hi. So, let's go ahead and start off, shall we? Let's talk to Murad.
What news from the front?
Xylom. More recruits arrive at the garrison every hour. Wait, that's the wrong accent. I need the Draenei accent. We'll soon run out of food. I have made contact with Exark Council in the hopes of securing rations from Elador, the breadbasket of this valley. He has agreed, provided we supply labor for the harvest. Everyone wins. If you agree with my plan, which I absolutely do, speak with Foreman Zipfizzle in the courtyard. He has gathered together available laborers, and Akama and I will escort them and meet you at Elador, far to the east. Now, I hate to bring this up again. I'm sorry. But you can kind of see in several of the quests that feel of the we should have been abandoned and cut off thing. You know, the way the story was originally written to be. What I'm saying is you can kind of feel how a lot of the quest chains were written with that mentality still in mind. In other words, if we have regular contact with Stormwind and with Orgrimmar, to the point where we can establish, we have regular people coming through, we can establish a whole other base completely on its own, why is it we are so concerned with getting local supplies and local help from people around here? Because the original storyline was written as if we didn't have a regular pipeline to back up on supplies. And so if you just mentally shift your mentality to, we're stuck on Draenor, a lot of these quests really start to line up and make a lot more sense. Especially ones like this one. The idea of interacting with the local farmers and saying, we'll help you work the fields, you give us a portion of your crops, makes a lot more sense then, doesn't it?
Our enemies must fall.
Step it up here! We got hungry bellies to fill!
Yeah, in a minute. Let's talk to Yrel first. As an aside, I mentioned yesterday, or I think it was yesterday, that Yrel is a very polarizing character. Some people really like her, some people really dislike her. I'll go ahead and put me in the really like her thing. I feel like they did some good stuff with her. I feel like they rushed her character arc a bit, but as I've already explained, part of the problem with that is the fact that they rushed Warlords in general, the whole lack of support thing. I still think with what they had, Yrel was a well-done character. Just my opinion.
The Prophet guides us.
I'll use a different accent for her. Prophet Villain has asked me to show you around Shadowmoon Valley. We will first go to Imbari village, where my sister Samara is waiting for us. I have not seen her since the Iron Horde took me to Tanan. The village is just one of many trading villages between the Temple of Karabor and Shatrath. Follow the road east and make your way to the Imbari village, and I will accompany you, my friend.
Please be careful. I will go with you, hero. A warm welcome awaits us at Imbari village.
That is him, correct, Dakota. I agree with that statement, Norlex, and I hope it's wrong, because... And it probably is correct, but there were several hints given that Yrel, and a couple of other characters we'll talk about later, would actually be coming from past alternate Draenor to present regular Azeroth. And Yrel was pretty much at the top of that list. In fact, the ending cinematic of this expansion ends with her saying... Like, she has the second to last line of the entire expansion. If you ever... Actually, she has the last line, too. Excuse me. But she has the third to last line, where she says, if you ever need us, we will be here to help you, Yes, she's kind of... They do something very clever with her. Well, I shouldn't say clever, but I like it. It's not super clever. Basically, not every time we see her, but as we go throughout the course of this expansion, she will be improving her gear bit by bit. Now, that's actually really cool, because if you were paying attention, and good Lord, I hope you were on one of my streams, when we very first encountered her in the mines in the Tanan jungle, she had never killed anyone before, ever. She was a non-combatant, okay? In fact, she was actually a farmer prior to this, and she had never taken a life before. And so she is kind of following the fairly classic, hero's path. Most people refer to it as the Luke Skywalker thing, but of course it's a concept that's been around for a long time. So she literally starts off from being someone who is a non-combatant and will be elevating from that. And I like the visual representation of her gear getting better as she herself becomes more experienced, becomes more capable, and becomes more seasoned of an individual. Because how else are you going to represent that kind of thing visually in a game format like this, right? With the limitations that WoW has on it.
Well, hello there, Commander.
Sir, Commander, sir. On Murad's orders, I've rounded up a bunch of lackeys. Quality, skilled labor. Say the word, and we'll get this caravan to Elador and secure some food.
You heard the Commander. Move out! Go, go!
Yes, the hero's journey is what I'm referring to.
The little one is the taskmaster.
Love you,
You will
Akama.
find our alliance is full of surprises, Exark. This is the commander I told you about.
But he is a dog.
Commander, you have built the most impressive garrison. I'm eager to see your men in action.
Oh, you will, Akama. I can't wait to see you in action.
We will escort this caravan and meet you in Elador, Commander.
Well, 2 reasons, Dakota. 1, total luck, which is how she survived her very, very first encounter before we met her. And 2, we're with her every step of the way. Remember what I've often said about noobs in terms of games? Noobs are not things to be looked down upon or derided or insulted. Noobs are things to be cherished and nurtured and help them to grow so they stop being noobs. And that's pretty much literally what we do in lore with Yrel. The main character is the reason she gets to grow. And I like that. But then again, as I said, I like Yrel. So I am horrifically biased. I know, Necro. Whenever Third and I manage to really hammer this out, I actually do plan to get that app developed. And I'm hoping to have a thing set up on the webpage as well. So you can either, if you have a smartphone, there'll be a thing that'll pop up. You'll get a little pop-up notification saying Arshan Guy's just gone live. Or if you don't have a smartphone, we'll have an email thing set up, so it'll toss out an email notification from the website. So we'll no longer have to rely on Twitch being incredibly unreliable, which is part of the main point for that functionality and why I want that. Just for you guys, I'll be ground-mounted for some of this. Some of it. Good morning, Somashi. My back is also good. Oh.
Warm welcome awaits us at Embari Village.
Yes, I know. Yeah, actually, that's fairly accurate, War Wager. What's this?
Hello, Mr. Tarvos.
Yrel, have you come back from the dead?
It will take more than some orcs to defeat me.
That's not true. Wanted. Kurat's tusks. Posted by Eramor. A ferocious elk of unprecedented size has been seen near the Gloomshoot Grove. Known to some as the Ivory Death. She is abnormally aggressive and has already taken the lives of several unwary travelers. The Rangari, oh, we'll get to talk about those soon too, have yet been unable to corner this creature. Anyone capable of taking on this beast should exchange proof of her demise for a hefty bounty. That's okay, Takora. I'm kind of tired of living anyways. If Kil'jaeden strikes me down, I shall become more powerful than he could possibly imagine. So... there he is. This is a boss mob. It doesn't quite look like it, but it is. Any mob that's basically classified as a certain type, like this one... Where's my pet? Is a boss mob. Now, the boss mob thing only really matters for a couple of reasons, but the biggest reason it matters is because if I happen to be a Horde character here right now, or a player not in the group, and I decided to join in the fight, I would get credit just the same as the original did. This is some of the increased tagging tech they added in Warlords. I suppose, I suppose I'll have to yawn, apparently. Oh, God. No! Crap. Hang on. Yeah, let me just strangle him for a bit. Wait, if I'm using the Force Choke, doesn't that make me Vader? And wouldn't that make Yrel Starkiller? Oh yeah, so you have this thing here. Yeah, no kidding, Big Bad. Call to Arms is the ability. So each zone, based on your Garrison expansion thing, you get a different ability. You can actually pick in all the other zones which ability you get. I'll be showing those off as we go. But it's another aspect of how the Garrison is really good when it's serving its purpose as helping you during the leveling experience. And I hate to once again defend garrisons, but there you are.
Awaits us at Embari Village.
Yeah, I've said it before and I've said it again. I think the garrisons work really, really well while you're leveling, because of the way they integrally tie in to both the story and the gameplay mechanic of leveling up and going
I
to the
can't
quests.
wait to surprise my sister Samara. I never thought I would see her again.
It's worth noting for a little bit of perspective. The Draenei are not super doomed at this point in time. These are not the Draenei that were barely... You remember when we saw Murad's story back in the Lords of the Clan, Lords of War thing? And how he was talking about how the desperate, scattered remnants of the refugees were just barely surviving and having to be escorted away from bloodthirsty orcs who are literally at their doorstep. This is not... Well, I agree, Nito, but I mentioned that yesterday too. This is not those Draenei. These Draenei have only just begun to already have issues with the orcs. So they still have establishment. They still have villages and cities and a military force and an actual infrastructure of governments and all that. This is basically our one and only peek ever into the actual culture and civilization of the Draenei people, which is another reason why I like Shadowmoon Valley so much. Because we're basically showing up just in time to get a peek into that civilization starting to fall. And then we will, of course, try to stop it from falling and defeat the Iron Horde. Crystal Tech, Takoida. That wasn't bling, it was actually augmentation. I have heard about that craze, and I just shrug at it. I'd have to experience it myself to give a really in-depth thought on it. So as you can see, they have this whole fishing farming area here. It's kind of cool. They have their own dedicated peacekeepers for each particular settlement still. Effectively a militia. That's important to note because the Draenei overall... Yeah, I know, right, Gnarlix? The Draenei overall are don't actually have a classical standing military. They have the Rangari, or the Rangeri. They pronounce it both ways, depending on who you're listening to. Effectively, the Rangers. Very much parallel to the Lord of the Rings, or to Babylon 5, which itself was a parallel to Lord of the Rings, in that concept. So, I mean, they are a military force, but they're more like the elite military special ops, rather than a standing army. So any given city, village, etc. usually has its own peacekeepers, which is the title they take onto it, which are basically militia. So these groups, and as Psychotic just gave away, as kind of leading towards here, the Draenei have existed on the run and under gun for so much of their history, basically all of it, actually, that it's another one of those Gilneas situations, or those Zandalari situations, aka basically everyone is required to have some martial skill, and everyone is required to be willing to stand up and volunteer for service if needed. Everyone is a vigil, everyone is a scout, and then of course there's the more elevated peacekeepers who actually wear the armor and weapons, and there's some hints that these militia, these peacekeepers, cycle in and out, so you're not always a militia. Sometimes you can go back to being a farmer or a smith or cook or whatever it is you want to be.
Yrel!
Yay, you're here! She's back!
Also, the way they pronounce Yrel has never stuck in my mind. They call him Yrel. Yrel, which is really, really hard for me to pronounce because I'm a terrible person. So sorry, guys. If you've been wondering why I keep calling her Yrel, that's why. Yrel. I can't do it. Interesting craze. I hadn't heard about that.
Samara, I'm back. Yrel? After the Iron Horde took you, I feared the worst.
The light granted me strength when I needed it most. It is good to be home.
Good morning, Azura. I just want to show this off really quick. This is a fairy dragon. It's very cool looking. I like it, at least. It's also something I talked about before. You see, these fairy dragons here are, well, they're basically just very, very large fairy. These are normal fairy dragons, the sprites I've talked about before, and how they're basically a nature arcane kind of creature, as opposed to being a true dragon. They just happen to be very, very large. I don't believe they have ever explained that one thing. Give me just a second. Yeah. So, as you can see, I have this one. You get it from the shop. I think that's stupid. I've already talked about this, though. I don't want to rehash this. But I just want to give some of my reasoning. Because these things, it's implied, but never stated outright, that these things are cultivated from normal size little sprite little things up to in order to be mounts and servitors and whatnot and partners and all that stuff for the Draenei. But my point is, they are distinctly a Draenic thing here. I mean, there's a couple others over there, and all your flight paths around here use those. And it's a shot mount. If you raise the rep of the Draenei to max, that's not your reward, even though that would make perfect sense. And as I actually pointed out on the flip side as well, the other mount, which is this thing, this is the Laughing Skull mount. In fact, you can even see the skull mask thing it's got on there. This is actually the mount that the Laughing Skull use regularly and blah, blah, blah. And I'll talk about the lore significance of that later. And it's a shot mount, not a rep mount, even though it would make perfect sense for this to be a rep mount. I bring this up because this is probably one of the very, very few times, I think 3 times total actually, I can point to something that was clearly designed to be obtainable in-game, rather than rather than buying it with real money, and someone stepped in and said, "That's cool, let's sell it for real money instead." And yeah, so anyways.
Light's blessing to you.
Thank you, stranger. The Prophet spoke of new allies arriving on our shores. I hear it is thanks to you my sister is safe. I owe you a great debt, my friend. Your arrival should be cause for celebration, hero, but I fear our troubles are just beginning. Warlord Ner'zhul and his Shadowmoon Clav have launched a surprise attack on the Draenei settlement to the north. Prophet Valen has gone to aid the wounded at Taluna Observatory, but we need more defenders. I must go to assist the others. If you wish to help us, go to Arbor Glen. Kill any Shadowmoon you see.
We will persevere.
Greetings.
Are you here for the bounty on Kurat? The Ivory Death is slain. Impressive, traveler. Thanks to you, we are all safer with Kurat gone. I will share news of this deed with the other villagers.
We will endure.
What, you mean the ones that look like Alex Strauss, Psychotic? Which is funny, because the Iron Horde was, like, pretty much there, or wager. They just didn't manage to get those into Azeroth. Because we chopped them off. So, as you can see, the Peacekeepers here are actually being trained by a Rangari, which is one of these guys. You notice the Rangari immediately gets across the impression of being much more professional than those guys. Even the ones out front who have, fairly basic... Here, I'll give you a one-to-one example. Just give me a moment. This won't take long. I just want to get across the point. This is, again, that visual storytelling. They do a lot of good visual storytelling in Warlords, which I'll talk about later. So you can see his armor there. Now, that is clearly armor, and in fact, by most standards, that would be fairly functional armor. But this is WoW, so you have to kind of mentally adjust for the fact that that is effectively noob armor. That kind of armor denotates someone who is not particularly skilled, not particularly well geared, right? By contrast, the Rangari over here is wearing that, which, again, in WoW terms, does actually imply someone who is better geared, better skilled, etc. I know, Dakota. But, yeah. And he's actually teaching these peacekeepers how to, be peacekeepers, which I really like. We see, I really, really like the aesthetics of the Draenei a lot. I like this thing here. This is a really cool mural carved out of crystal. You can see on the left there's someone representative of the Burning Legion. Someone on the right here, there's some Draenei on an Elec. Some generic stuff on the bottom, which I actually want to talk about that later. And, of course, a Naru. You know what, I'll talk about this now, just so I don't forget. So this is clearly Ashogun, the ship that I've mentioned many, many times back in BC. And we'll talk about it a little bit here, too. That, I'm not sure what that indicates, but it looks very much like the crystal power source the Draenei use. This is the really interesting one. You see those three things? Now, it's not one-to-one, but those three things look a whole lot like the runestones that Imperator Margok uses in the fight against him. And I think there is a connection there, but we'll talk about that a little later. How's that sound? We'll talk about that later, because we've got a lot to talk about the Gorean Empire later on, and that's not really the focus of this zone. Is this where I was going? Just want to make sure I got the thing. Oh yeah, I should talk about these. So you see this guy? Good morning, Tyler. This is a Dragoon. Not from Final Fantasy, from StarCraft. I hate to be what effectively sounds derogatory, and I'm usually the kind of person who really gets irritated when people just say, oh, well, it's just blah. And I get kind of defensive about that. But these are Dragoons. They are artificial constructs designed to house the soul of a Draenei, so that Draenei can continue to serve militarily in death. The only difference is a Protoss's body is put into a Dragoon, whereas a Draenei's soul is put into these things. And also, these things actually have decent pathfinding AI. Hope some of you get that. But yeah, that's what these things are. I should say these people are. That'll actually be relevant later, too.
You bring news?
The Shadowmoon orcs are using portals to bring in reinforcements and smuggle away Draenei captives. Captives, blah. Captives? If we're to have any hope of retaking the village, we must destroy the portals at once. The only way to do this is to kill the portal masters who keep the rifts open.
Never back down.
I would also agree with that. To my knowledge, there is no example of of one of the... I actually can't remember the proper name for them. The Draenei Dragoons. I can't remember their proper name right now. I can't think of any example of one of those that is not willing. And in fact, it's considered a huge honor. In other words, you basically have to sign up for this thing. In fact, as we find out later, in some cases, Draenei will actually willingly extract their soul without having died, just to be put in those things to serve. We'll actually encounter one later on in Auchendoon, like that.
You are welcome here.
When the Shadowmoon attacked Arbor Glen, everything was thrown into chaos. Many of us escaped, but there are still three children missing. I believe they are back in the village. Please save them.
Please be careful, friend.
And yeah, I could point to a lot of things from a lot of other settings that also have the same whole, soul in construct concept going on. I just mentioned the Dragoon thing because I figure most people here have probably heard of them. Yes, their bodies cease to work. Oh, goody. I'll just get that out of the way. I'm not going to talk about how they do the crafting thing with regards to recipes in Draenor. I'm just doing this because otherwise it will keep dropping forever until I finally train it. Keep in mind, if you're paying attention, I haven't raised First Aid, or indeed trained First Aid, since this character was created. But that thing still dropped. The First Aid in Draenor thing. Now, I will say one thing they did that's very, very cool in Draenor. So in every other expansion, the way this worked... I'm sorry, I know I just said I wouldn't do this, but I'm going to. There's the cooking one. I've never trained cooking either. The way this works is in previous expansions, let's say that it's Wrath. Just to use an example, this actually happened to me. And during Wrath, I decided to shift away from engineering, because it just wasn't cool anymore, over to blacksmithing. So in order to do that, I had to do all of Vanilla's blacksmithing, and then all of BC's blacksmithing, and then all of Wrath's blacksmithing. In other words, I had to go get mats from Vanilla, mats from BC, mats from Wrath. Now that makes sense and seems logical, but, well, I'm sure some of you understand just how incredibly arduous and aggravating that can be, especially because the old profession chains were not particularly smoothly designed in terms of leveling, especially some of them, like engineering. So in some cases, you'd reach really seriously bad bottlenecks in your progression of crafting because you're trying to get something that nobody cares about anymore. In fact, in some servers, an entire economy had built up over the idea that, well, everyone's going to bottle up around this material, and so we're going to gather a ton of this material and sell it on the auction house for way over too much money. Gold is another example of that. I don't mean gold, you know, the money. I mean literally gold bars were really, really irritating and hard to come by. At least, I'm exaggerating. That's a slight exaggeration. They're not really, really irritating. They are irritating to come by, and they were a bottleneck for several professions. Hey, Magister. So people would, you know, gather up tons and tons of gold and then just sell it on the auction house for way more than it was worth. And Wrath, so that people in Wrath would be paying for the gold just to get their professions done. Makes sense. Anyways, they kind of did away with that in Warlords. To explain briefly, I'll use cooking as the example. So I have a cooking skill of 1. I'm serious. I have a cooking skill of 1. I've never even touched cooking, right? However, the mere fact that I have... that doesn't bother me, because what I can do is I can still make these Draenor cooking dishes right here, even though I have a cooking skill of 1, and they still give me skill ups. In fact, they give me 5 skill ups. So in other words, I can gather current level content, current level crafting mats, in order to raise crafting all the way up to the point where I could actually be at current level. It's a nice catch-up mechanic that I actually do think was an overall good decision, personally, just because I really got tired of the previous method. But of course, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on that because of the whole argument we've had before. You know, the fat argument. The good fat versus bad fat, whatever argument. Yeah! Also, alts. Although I will freely admit there are other ways to make it so that an alt can raise a profession quicker than a main. Which they don't do. Hey, little guy. Wow, did you fight off all the orcs? You're strong. Yeah, I try. Now, anybody who has a brain or understands the history of these people should probably be asking themselves a question right now. Why are the Shadowmoon being horribly evil? Now, that's kind of a weird dual-edged question, because anybody who has just played, for example, Warcraft 1 and Warcraft 2 would not ask that question, because the Shadowmoon were one of the 2 most evil clans in those games, in the old demonic horde. I can't leave without Squiggy. He's trapped. You have to put out the fire. It's okay. I've got this. Water bucket. Water bucket. Oh, wait, hang on. Apparently that's enough. I got you, Squiggy. Oh, maybe I don't. Squiggy's a little fairy spriteling dragon thing. As I mentioned, they are present here. See, those little guys? They're the ones they cultivate into the larger ones. So I'm just showing that off there. I got you, Squiggy. The thing is, anybody who knows the more behind-the-scenes lore would know that the Shadowmoon, as I think I myself have told you guys already, were actually basically the pacifist clan of the old Horde. I shouldn't even call them the Horde. Back when they were just the clans. The Shadowmoons were the prophets, the seers, the spiritual center of Orcish culture people. They were some of the most powerful shamans, and they were the ones who regularly communed with the spirit, with the ancestral spirits, most notably the ones around Oshagun. So, you go from that to people who are kidnapping and enslaving and killing and all that fun stuff, and it's like, how? Well, don't worry, we'll see the full story as we go through here. It's kind of messed up, really. Yay! Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Yes and no, Big Bad. Basically, no. But they decided not to partake in the blood, so they are not blood cursed, yes. There is a small number of orcs who, at this point in history, as of right now, what you're looking at, are infused with fell blood. Very small number. And later on, that number will skyrocket. Through the roof. I thought everyone forgot about me. Thank you, mister.
You're welcome. Now go! Go for peace and love!
I'm a Worgen Death Knight. I mean, for God's sakes. Hey, Valen.
Not all who wander are lost.
The forests are clear of the Shadowmoon enemies? Good. I knew you would not fail.
You are the instrument of change.
There's that upgrade thing again. Wonderful. That should slow down the attack. Our forces should be able to retake the forest quickly.
Many depend on you.
I'm glad to hear the children are safe. They will remember your heroic deeds for their entire lives.
Be just.
Ding. We've managed to pin Ner'zhul inside the observatory, but he's already taken many down with him. He has taken Yrel. He's taken her sister, Samara. I need to hold the line here. Please do whatever you can to save her.
The light will guide your
Also,
way.
that's the perk we just got, that I mentioned earlier. So now our Dark Transformation no longer costs runes, which is actually awesome. Yeah, we'll talk about the...
No! Samara!
The necromancy thing in a bit here.
Ner'zhul! Stop this! What do you want?
Your blood will grant me the powers of the Dark Star. To Shazgul with you.
Yrel! No!
Tell your prophet that his era is over. Darkness dawns.
Champion, focus your attacks on that thing. I will protect the others.
In other words, she's going to handle the trash while we handle the boss. Which is suitable since, again, she's just started her hero's journey. She's nowhere ready to take on this thing. Which is listed as a Shard of the Dark Star.
Great Prophet, Ner'zhul is taking the captives to Shazgul.
We need to get our eyes onto the field. Rangari can help us.
Well, yeah, it's kind of their job.
Something is amiss on this world.
Yes, it's like this world shouldn't even exist. Your aid in retaking Taluna Observatory is not gone unnoticed, hero. I grow increasingly impressed with your prowess in battle. Perhaps you could share some of your knowledge with my disciples. They could learn much from a seasoned adventurer such as you. I have something for you, as a thanks for what you have done, even in the short time you've been here. Perhaps it will help you get this garrison of yours on your feet. Wait, really? I don't have a belt equipped, guys.
Be just.
The safety of my people is of the utmost priority. It is likely Ner'zhul has taken the prisoners to Shazgul, his stronghold to the southwest. I do not wish to use aggression against him, but he may force my hand. Meet me at the Twilight Glade. We shall try our best to recover these prisoners.
The light will guide your way.
I actually kind of would have liked that better, I think, J-Leia. Ah! My sister! I'll deal with the little things. You deal with the big thing. So yeah, why don't we equip a belt for the first time in I don't know how long. How long have we not had a belt equipped? Forever? Have we ever had a belt equipped on this character? Whatever. Equip. That explains why I couldn't transmog it the other day.
Ortichar, traveler.
First the Iron Horde, then the Shadowmoon Orcs. Now trouble to the south. My father is a Fey Rider to the south at the Dracorium. He says the creatures from the swamp are venturing into our lands. What is this world coming to? Anyway, you look like a seasoned adventurer. If you're heading that way, would you mind checking in over there?
Dionysaka.
This is a good time to talk about these things. These are called bonus objectives. I actually like the concept of bonus objectives. They're there basically for bonus exp and gold. It's basically a kill X of Y. It's always a kill X of Y or a gather X of Y. And they're all very simple and very easy and very quick. There is basically no real plot to any of them. No quest pop-up happens, no dialogue. Some of them help to inform the story, most of them don't. It's basically just there if you feel like getting a little bit of bonus exp on your leveling experience. And probably one of the contributing reasons why so many people say leveling in Warlords is so easy and so fast. Oh, excuse me. Now here's a very interesting question for you guys. Hey, Brekor. I don't understand your question, though. I mean, this is a counter at 123 right now. I'd just like to say one more time that I really enjoy Draenei architecture. Just in general. It's neat. I like it.
Commander!
You made it, but one of our wagons didn't. Have you seen Murad? He's still out there somewhere. One of our wagons fell behind and disappeared somewhere in the woods to the northwest. Vindicated Murad and several of your workers are stranded out there. Find them! Bring them back alive!
Everything's under
Search to the
control
northwest. We will be right behind you.
Oh, hey, Akama. Given the amazing art design WoW has always had, I would love to see Argus. See what they do with a place that's been a demon stronghold for millennia.
It was an ambush. Shadowmoon Orcs. They are circling back for the kill.
We can't fight them. We're just farmers. We don't even have weapons.
Such little faith. Give me your sickle. Watch what is possible with the light.
This is cute, but I admit I like this. I want you to look at the exact weapons Akama just picked up. See those things? For those of you unfamiliar, or don't have the visual memory, or don't care, those are the exact same weapon models that Akama uses, our Akama, in the modern day.
Go now. I will cover the rear.
This way, Commander.
I'm coming. So I thought that was...
Such a joy to see Exark Akama in action.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Look out! Here they come!
I was gonna say, we actually have some pretty decent accounts of what happens to other worlds the Legions hit. It's not pleasant.
This way. I remember these hills well. Another attack. They must think us an easy target. Ha!
Tell you what, guys. If we finally see Argus on camera, and it turns out that Argus is some paradise, I will eat a jalapeno pepper in one sitting without liquid. Live on camera. Murad came.
Almost there.
Murad came from our Draenor. This is our Murad, to put it into such terms. That would be awesome, Necro. A huge task, but awesome if they did it. Hey, Darker.
You made it.
Hello, Akama.
Oh, there you are. Now get to work, you slackers!
Such a wonderful, pleasant gnome.
We must never change.
I am keeping the sickles. They remind me of a lesson so many of us Draenei have forgot. The light lives in every farmer as much as any priest. You fight well. I am pleased to call you friend. Your laborers will be safe here in Elodor. If you are not convinced, speak to Exark Hataru. His devices secure Draenei's strongholds.
Exark
guide
Council,
you.
these attacks are just the beginning.
The orcs would be fools to attack our fortified cities.
Keeping that in mind, by the way. I'll explain
With respect, I disagree. We must not underestimate them. Take me to the Exark Council.
No blood oaths, by the way, but I am a man of my word. As I've proven many, many times. So, I want to talk about what he just said there. So, as I mentioned before, the Draenei haven't really been hit by the Iron Horde yet. Not in any significant fashion. I'm sorry I'm yawning so much. I got so little sleep last night. One of the things I really want to emphasize, and I really want this to sit in your minds, is just how pathetic the leadership of the Iron Horde really is. I really genuinely believe, this may just be an aspect of lazy or, not lazy, incomplete writing, but I really believe Blackhand was the actual driving force behind the Iron Horde. I mean, obviously, you know, Raytheon is technically the driving force, and then Garrosh, but Blackhand was the real leader, and that makes sense. It's Blackhand, for God's sakes. That fits in, ironically, with our Blackhand situation. And this Blackhand kind of seems pretty similar in his overall approach. But the reason I bring this up is because the Iron Horde, you know, Gromash is convinced by Garrosh. Oh, by the way, so Garrosh, I don't know, Darker, considering he's basically the main antagonist. He's sure as hell more of an antagonist than Grom was. Anyways, so Garrosh comes here, and he actually took one of the artifacts with him. One of the main artifacts that Kairos had left with him. It was actually a recording of several aspects of history, so he could show it to Grom and convince Grom of what he was talking about. Now, this is also amusing because it's implied that part of the reason Garrosh required this device was because Garrosh was too stupid to remember the specific details of history to be able to convince his father. Also, fun little anecdote while we're on the subject. Garrosh is older than Grom. I, of course, mean alternate Grom, but still, Garrosh is older than his father. That just amuses me. Anyways, so he shows him this device that he took from Kairos, and it shows him all sorts of information about the future, including the exact fate of the demonic horde and all that. And Grom says, hell with that! What I want to do... This is great. What I want to do is I want to unify all the orcs together, because up until this point, orc history has been fraught with bloodshed, against each clan fighting each other, with the sole exception, of course, of the Shadowmoon and the Frost Wolves. They're pretty much the only clans that didn't constantly fight against each other. And even the Frost Wolves had dealings with the Thunderlord. So all the different clans fought against each other forever, and Grom's ideal was, we are all orcs. We should all unify, we should all work together, because we are all of one blood, we are all of one race, and we should form one true orcish horde, and we will all... Yeah, exactly, Necro. And we should all be part of one unifying force, and make a better, more prosperous future for all the orcs. Now, I say that because I feel like that helps to explain part of why so many orcs leapt on board with that idea, because that idea sounds awesome on the face of it, doesn't it? And that's how Grom was able to convince so many orcs from so many clans to join the Iron Horde. That kind of runs in contrast to a few other things. But, like, for example, the fact that, as we'll see on camera, he basically comes to the Shadowmoon who said, no, we're not joining your Iron Horde. And he said, okay, well, if you don't join us, we'll kill you. Or worse. Because the Iron Horde's approach is actually very Titan-like, ironically. The Iron Horde's approach is, you are with us, or you are fuel. You're not our enemy. You are a resource to be consumed as a slave, as coal, as I mentioned before, as someone who could be given away or traded as property, you know, that kind of a thing. And, yeah, I have to admit, that sounds a little more Garrosh-y than Grommy, but at the same time, there's some really messed up stuff to do, but I digress. The reason I brought all this up, though, is because the Iron Horde barely started assaulting the Draenei forces at all. In fact, they basically did a couple of small raids to gather enough people to fuel the Dark Portal, and then they were done. That's it. They haven't actually brought the might of the Iron Horde against the Draenei yet. So, and I kind of implied that earlier. So this attack by the Shadowmoon, or at this point a part of the Iron Horde, this attack by the Shadowmoon is basically the first real time at which the Iron Horde has started expressing its influence into the Draenei territories, which extend throughout this area, and most of this is basically Draenei territory right here. Now, you might ask, well, hang on. The Draenei don't even have a proper military force. You just said that, Arsh. How could they possibly defend against us? Well, you see this thing? This is a Protoss pylon. Or not a pylon, excuse me. A photon cannon. This is a Protoss photon cannon. I hate to keep paralleling these to the Protoss, but it's the easiest way to explain this. This is a fully automated, fully independent defense mechanism, and they have lots of these. This right here is one of the reasons why the Demonic Horde still took losses and still had difficulties when they started invading the Draenei back in our timeline. Because the Draenei themselves did not have much of a military history. And the Draenei don't really have a standing military. But they do have incredible technology. And I mentioned this earlier because people were like, well, hang on, the Draenei are more technologically advanced than, you know, than Blackfuse and the Iron Horde. And that's absolutely true. But again, technology is not just, it's not like one stat bar and you just raise your technology. The Draenei are very well advanced in many aspects. In farming, in smithing, in crafting, in magical arts, in defenses, you know, all sorts of that. They are very advanced in many different different technologies across the board. The Iron Horde is very advanced in manufacturing and firepower. You know, basically war. And that's it. They have war output in terms of their in terms of their technological progression. So when the Iron Horde come, they come with war machines. And the Draenei, for all their advancements, don't really have quite the capacity to stand up against it. If I can use a parallel here, who's more technologically advanced? The Federation or the Dominion? Now, some people would debate that. If Kay was on, I'm sure he would debate it, for example. Yeah, no kidding, Warwager. I'm sure many people would debate that, but the point is, in my opinion, the Federation had superior technology in several ways to the Dominion, but it is absolutely unquestionable that the Dominion had superior military technology to the Federation. Or if I could use perhaps a better parallel, who's more technologically advanced? The Romulans during the TNG era or the Federation? And again, in this case, it's a much more one-sided, because the Federation is much more advanced technologically than Romulans in that era. But the Romulans, if they ever went to full-out war against the Federation, would probably win because their military technology was better. Make sense? Their military output was better. A D'Deridex would absolutely destroy a galaxy, for example. A galaxy class, not an actual galaxy. Debatable, Takoida? I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and say no because, you know, the Legion. But I will say that the Iron Horde is probably one of the best organizations we've seen thus far that is good at outright war. And I mean that sincerely. the demonic horde was not that good at outright war. The demonic horde was a giant pile of beetles that you were rolling over your enemy. They would eventually destroy everything in their path, but they'd be just this mess of disorganized chaos and kill each other as much as they kill whatever's in their way. The Iron Horde was a unified front, like you pushing a giant metal wall against the enemy, inexorably forcing them backwards, you know? That would be awesome, Warwager. I will defeat all of the Draenei by myself for the troop! And then he's dead. And yeah, Necro, that's the other thing. Again, the lack of militarization is a really big deal when it comes to the Draenei. But anyways, let's see this thing in action, shall we?
My people can be so much more.
Exark Council is too cautious, but we shouldn't ignore a threat from the Shadowmoon clan. It's good you're here. Since we've arrived on Draenor, I have dedicated myself to recreating the technology we left behind. This large structure here is a defensive ward, sometimes called a photon cannon. It should prove to counter a Shadowmoon advance, if we power it up. I have prepared several resonance crystals at my workshop. If you could carry it to the 3 pylons, you can activate it.
The Draenei will rebuild. This way, friend. The ward is nearly at full power.
Yeah. I would say the Scourge is probably the single most war, is the force that's the absolute best at outright war. Not the strongest, just the best at it. One unified force working for one unified goal.
Crystalline resonance emitters into the earth, harnessing the very energies of Draenor itself to power our defenses.
What you're hearing is a little bit about how their crystal-centric technology works. As you can see, they use crystal powder, the actual crystals themselves. These crystals are specifically designed and crafted. These are not mined. Well, that's not true. These crystals can be mined and then altered, and they can be artificially crafted, so both are true. But they are designed to be of a very specific resonance frequency, and that frequency is something that they can... Basically, it's a magical frequency, so rather than sending a particular sound wave through it, for example, it'll conduit magic much better than it otherwise would. And that's pretty much how their tech works.
On our homeworld, art, science, magic, and technology were all as one. Ah, such wonders we would build. Now, all I have is spare parts and whatever primitive materials we can cobble together.
As an aside, what he just said is something I was about to point out. I keep referring to Draenei technology, but that's kind of a misnomer. Nothing the Draenei have is actually technology, unless you're pulling it technically. Everything the Draenei use is actually magitechnology, magitech. Everything they do is magitech. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I've often felt that magitech in most settings should be stronger than tech or magic individually, and I feel like that's this way in this setting too. I'd like that too, by the way, Necro.
It is ready. Go inside.
And you can see how they create this resonance there. I remember Darker. That looks familiar. The console thrums with energy and lights up as you draw near, as though sensing your presence. Simply touching the main crystal brings the crystal outside to life. If this is the kind of technology Hataru was able to cobble together from spare parts, you can only imagine the splendor of the world he came from. No sooner does power rush to the crystal outside than you hear distant war cries and shouts of alarm. Elidor is being attacked. If you want your laborers to come home in one piece, you'd best help with the defense of the town. If I have to. Yeah, I really want to show this off in action here. Agreed, Jayla, absolutely. I don't know the answer to that, Necro. I can only speculate. I have often...
Shadowmoon at bay. What is causing this madness?
I have often thought that the majority of the Draenei tech, like the vast majority of it, is actually Naru tech that they have been given by the Naru and have used for their own purposes. But I don't know how much of that is true. Especially since they make mention of Argus having this tech too. And that would have been before...
his sacrifices elsewhere.
And that would have been, before they met the Naru, so... I don't know. I don't know how much of this is theirs or the Naru's. Damn it.
Defend the ridgeline. Let them come to us.
Also, yeah, this thing is a little slow on its attack, which is a disadvantage. But its shot is pretty strong when it actually hits. No, I'm not killing Draenei. I'm killing orcs. Do keep in mind, some of their confusion is very understandable, given the fact that until very recently, the Shadowmoon were basically friends and allies, neighbors. I want you to imagine that you're just kind of doing it every day, and all of a sudden, literally your neighbors from across the street pick up some guns, run across to your house, and start trying to kill you. That's pretty much the equivalent of where they're looking at here. You saved the town. The controls shut down as you approach, but many of the indicators are still blinking frantically. Something's wrong. Hataru's yelling outside. Hataru! Oh, hello.
That thing. Bring it down.
What is going on here? The entire mushroom forest is riled up.
Hello,
Stay in your swamp, Rangari. I will handle this.
Ooh.
Did you sink resonance crystals in the ground again? You're driving the creatures of the earth berserk. When will you learn that this world is nothing like Argus?
So, that's Exark Naella. I'm probably pronouncing her name wrong. She is the Exark of the Rangari. The guy we've been helping is Hataru. He is actually Exark of the Artificers. Maladar is Exark of another faction. I actually don't remember it. We'll go over them as we go through them. This is a little insight into the governorship of how the Draenei actually rule themselves. Basically, they're actually very similar to the Minbari from Babylon 5. I hate to give that away. They're not quite caste-based like the Minbari are, but each division of government is basically completely segregated from the other divisions, and is expected to deal with its own stuff, and, as an aside, is also expected to... That's right, Maladar's in charge of the Akanai, the Soul Priest, thank you. I don't know, I didn't forget that it was freaking Maladar. So the Exarch is the head... Hello, Disticlove. The Exarch is the head of each given branch. Basically, I'm trying to think of a real-life government that's like this, and I'm kind of not really coming up with it. They have no actual single leader. Valen kind of functions as a single leader, but he isn't actually a leader. He has the honor of being, the most venerated Draenei, and if he says to do stuff, people will listen to him. But he has no actual governorship power. Does that make sense? He is not actually the one making day-to-day decisions in charge of their society. Instead, the Exarch of the Artificers is making decisions, and the Exarch of the Rangari is making decisions, and the Exarch of the Priesthood is making decisions. Excuse me. And there's two other divisions I want to say, and I can't remember what they are right now because I'm really tired, so forgive me. But that's how their government works. It's basically six, I believe it's six, completely separate and segregate organizations, each of which happens to pseudo-cooperate and coordinate. But I say pseudo, as we'll see many times, and this is just the first instance of it, the different groups do not coordinate all that well with each other, at least on the upper echelons level. And yes, Exarch is basically the head of each of these different divisions. Now, I agree with Darker. We don't know this for certain, but I believe the Draenei, at least at one point in time, were extremely caste-based. Given their... that being said, I also have this feeling that the old Draenei, the really old Draenei, a.k.a. the Eridar, were actually extremely elitist, too, in the same way that the elves of Dragon Age, I think, is probably the best way to parallel that one. In other words, if you were, the more skilled you were in magic, the better you were. The better your standing, the better your position, the more important you were, the more political influence you have, all that stuff. Because the old Eredar were a completely magical society, a completely magical-based society. And we get some hints, tiny little hints, that that society was a glass paradise, if you understand what I mean by that. So let's go back and see what's Murad. Oh, don't remind me of that game, Tequita. I want to play it again. I love Alpha Centauri. I would love a proper remake of Alpha Centauri. You don't even need to change the content, really. Just, like, update it and make it easier to run on a modern machine. Yes, I know it's on good old games, but God, it's still a pain to get it running properly.
Where do we stand?
Good work at the gates. The Shadowmoon orcs have been seeking prisoners for some reason. Their aggression helps our cause. Oh, yeah. I don't have the bot on right now. Nobody click that. I have to actually launch the bot. I kind of forgot that. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, nobody click that. There we go. Good work at the gates. Where the hell was I? Come with me. I would like to introduce you to the Exark Council, the Hands of the Prophet. I've been trying to convince the Exarchs to support our cause and go on the offensive against the Iron Horde, but they are, as always, too cautious and slow to act. Come with me. I will introduce you to Exark Othar up the hill. Perhaps meeting an Alliance hero will sway the Council.
Never again.
It's 5 Exarchs, excuse me. That's typical. I have this really weird problem I've had for
Your
years.
laborers are hard at work, Commander. Soon, your garrison will be well stocked with food.
Yay. Where I tend to automatically add when I'm counting it to a number. And I know why that is, and I'm not going to bore you with it. So that's probably why I thought it was 6 when it was actually 5. I have that problem all the time. I try really hard to not do that. So here is Exark Othar in charge of the Shatari. We'll talk about this guy in a moment. I don't know, Necro. I personally think it's the former, though.
Our power is supreme.
Exark Othar's towering, intimidating figure. He is pretty tall. His eyes bore into you. So you're Xylon, esteemed Death Knight of this alliance that has appeared on our shores. On behalf of the Exark Council, I welcome you to Elador. I am calling the Exark Council in order to hear your petition. None of us doubt this Iron Horde is a threat, but few can agree on what we do about it. It is up to you and Vindicator Murad to gather the Exarchs together. Exarch Nyala is leader of the Rangari, Eyes of the Prophet. They are our scouts who silently stalk the farthest corners of Draenei. Seek her out in the enclave northwest of here.
Never forget.
I will also need you to call upon Hataru. I understand you are helping him with the defenses at the gate. Hataru is our chief artificer. He understands our technology better than any other, and has been working tirelessly to recreate the glory of the civilization we left behind. He has moved to his workstation outside the Elador Dig, our crystal mines. Look for him at the mine entrance.
Someday, we will
I will seek out Exarchs Akama and Maladar. Good luck, Commander.
Hang on. Akama, Maladar, Othar, Hataru, and yeah, that's 5. I was right. If you insist. There you go. Winston will learn many things here. Ooh, rice? I don't know what that is. Hi, Taitu. Sorry, I was woken up rather early by the little one, so I basically threw on whatever happened to be closest. So these are the Rangari. I've kind of already talked about them. We'll see a little more insight into the way they think and the way they function. But, that's an excellent question, Gnarlix. Hey, look, what's that over there? There are several questions that should have been raised because of the dumb nature of the time alternate dimension thing, as I mentioned earlier. And those questions are basically always answered with, no, think of Draenor as in a bubble. Just don't think about anything else. Just think of Draenor as in a bubble. Well, wait, but if there's a veil in here, that means there was a Kil'jaeden in here. No, think of Draenor as in a bubble. Well, hang on, they came here on Tempest Keep. No, bubble.
This is such a puzzling world.
Xylom, you've only just arrived, but already your name is the talk of Elador. I will gladly support your cause for the Exark Council. It has always been my opinion that Draenei need to get out and be proactive in our world, instead of hiding behind our walls. But first I need your help with something. It is our mission as Rangari to explore and understand this world. Around you is the Umberfen. Many Draenei lost their lives when we first discovered this place. The volatile spores burst when anyone approached. But we watched, and we learned. Around the swamp you'll notice shimmer shrooms, distinguished by their orange glow caps. Their dust will make you invisible to the volatile spores. Grab the spores gently and bring them to me. We will forge this savage world into a weapon.
The Draenei shall overcome.
Oh, come on, Taitu. Don't say that, especially since I'll probably be paying for her college education. Hopefully, I should add.
Let us speak.
So as you can see, the Rangari aren't just the special forces. They also...
The strongest spirit will always triumph.
They also serve the function of scouts, what actual rangers would do, reclaimers, that kind of a thing. They kind of cover a fairly broad territory. There's an implication that the Rangari have had to basically adapt to, so as we know, the Draenei have been world hopping for a very long time as they've been fleeing the Legion. And each time they get onto a brand new world, the Rangari have to go and figure out how this new ecosystem works, what's poisonous, what's edible, what interacts with other things, all that stuff, right? And I like that because that makes perfect sense, and I like that they have an entire organization dedicated toward that. This is why I say that Rangari really don't qualify as a military force, because that's not even their primary mandate. They are here to, and I know there's a proper term for this, but they are here to be the ones to help acclimate Draenei to each new world, each new setting that they come into. Each new ecosystem.
The Legion will fall.
The Exarchs seem to trust you, Death Knight. Are you venturing into the Umberfen? The spore bats in this area are usually docile, but when they attack, their stingers wrap around exposed limbs. I've seen them tearing through reinforced leather like it was paper. How do they work, I wonder? Could you bring me a pristine spore bat stinger? I would love to study it.
Remain
Yes, I
vigilant.
do, Craze. I would put 100% certainty on that. It is the closest thing the Legion has to a homeworld. I mean, the only other thing that ever qualified for a homeworld of the Legion has been destroyed by Illidan. So, good job, Illidan. Right, so you're supposed to do that so you can gather these stupid things, because I'm stupid. I'm stupid. Thanks for asking. So this is the Zanger, by the way. Now, the Zanger is a very generic term, on purpose. But the Zanger... Yeah, no kidding, Julia. We'll go with, like, ship-sized iron stars. Hey, Argus! The Zanger is a generic term that refers to the overall mushroom life that exists on Draenor. That is an excellent question, Takoida. Look! Hey, look over there! No, I'll tell you the answer in a second. Let me finish talking about Zanger first. So the Zanger basically refers to all of the different plant life that exists in Draenor, which is all
pseudo-unified in purpose. Unlike the Overgrowth, which actually has a sentient, sapient design, intelligent design pushing it forward, Zanger is basically the opposite of that. Zanger is completely undirected, natural outgrowth of the fungal biome. And it's actually rather appropriate, because if you're paying attention, that means the two natural forces in contention on Draenor are natural design and intelligent design. You know, evolution versus creation. That's not quite how it is, but that thought always amuses me. But the point here is that these Zanger, these wonderful fungi things, I don't know what else to add to that. The fungi blank, because I can't say plants, because that's not accurate. The fungi... goobledygocks. There we go. The fungi goobledygocks. So again, there's no single thing devoting it. It's just all of the different fungi all coordinate and interact with each other quite logically and naturally. And in so doing, they kind of help to spread each other. Whereas the Overgrowth actually has individuals who, again, have both sentience and sapience, who are pushing the Overgrowth into expanding. And that's why they're in such direct competition, because the Zanger starts growing somewhere, and the Overgrowth are like, no, we should grow there. In our Draenor, the Zanger won. Although we don't know if that's because of the demonic horde, or if it was because of the destruction of the world into Outland. We don't know. It is possible that the Zanger just flat out won against the Overgrowth, but I don't know the answer to that question. So, let's talk about the Draenei thing. Draenei means to wander. When the Draenei showed up on Draenor, they named it Draenor. And then they encountered the Orcs, who had been here for a very long time. And for reasons that are best left to let us not talk about it, the Draenei basically impressed the usage of the name Draenor onto the Orcs, so even the Orcs started referring to it as Draenor. It became the common name, the common tongue. After all, remember, the Draenei had been here for about 2 centuries. And the Orcs, when they showed up, were barely a people, since they were still fully under the oppression of the Gorian Empire. So the Orcs were basically first starting to build a culture that didn't involve basic survival, and the Draenei were constantly referring to this new world as Draenor. That's why it is named Draenor. In case you're paying attention, the world is literally named after the people, not vice versa. And yes, Necro is correct about that. That's actually how the Zanger became to be originally, is they used that concept from Warcraft 2 and said, well, why don't we make this? We don't want everything to be fungus, but why don't we make that? It is entirely within feasibility that, as I mentioned, the Zanger just won and never really stopped expanding. In fact, it is even debatable that the only reason that there is life on Outland that is not the Zanger is because of the influences of shamans and druids, notably the Cenarian expedition. And yes, the Draenei really took basically... Yeah, the Draenei became the post-World War II United States, to use a parallel, after the Gorian Empire fell.
Krona kai Christor.
Most Draenei avoid the Umbrafen, but we Rangari seem drawn to the most dangerous places, because that's where you learn how the world works. Would you look at that? The entire tentacle is barred. Ugh. No wonder the wounds they inflict tend to get infected. We could learn something from this. I wonder if the Rangari explorers should start equipping themselves with whips. Thank you, Xylem. The alliance you come from must have quite a collection of heroes. Yeah, but all of them died coming through the portal, except me, of course.
Remember.
And this one Horde guy, I don't remember his name. Maybe it was a her. All Blood Elves look the same to me.
None can hide from the Rangari.
Careful with those. Hand them here. Wonderful. I will have my Rangari bury those around the perimeter of Elodor. If the Shadowmoon orcs dare attack us again, they will be in for a nasty surprise. Draenor is a hostile world, you have no idea. But if we take the time to learn and understand it, we can turn it to our advantage. I will finish up here and meet with the council shortly. I will be sure to back your proposal.
Know your enemy.
One thing they really pushed in this expansion is the idea that Draenor is basically the most savage terrain we've encountered this far. Not necessarily the most dangerous, not necessarily the most deadly, but definitely the most savage. We will see in person just how incredibly brutal it is just to exist on this world. And we kind of get an insight into why, yes I do, Adam Zweda, why so many of the civilizations and cultures that grew up in this world turned into incredibly violent, aggressive species, because they more or less literally had to, in order to survive. This is not a very friendly place. I actually don't drink ginger ale, Taitu. You can try it if you want. I don't care for it. I drink Canada Dry sparkling water. My favorite is cranberry and lime flavor, although I do just have plain sometimes. And I'm drinking cranberry and lime right now as it happens.
We have lost so much.
Ah, Xylam. I suspected I would see you again soon. I am willing to speak on your behalf at the council, but an emergency has come up. Burrowing native creatures called Goran have tunneled into our crystal mines. Judging from our experience at the gates, I suspect my own experimental resonance crystal is whipping the native wildlife into a frenzy. Enter the Elador dig to the north and disable the malfunctioning resonance crystal. Be careful! My earthworkers report the mine is crawling with beasts.
We will forge a new world.
This is also interesting because this shows the dichotomy in Draenei society very harshly. We're basically seeing all of one side and all of the other side, whereas most Draenei sit more in the middle. If you don't understand what I mean here, the Rangari acclimate the Draenei to the new world they come to. The artificers acclimate the new world they come to the Draenei. And you can kind of understand as to why the two forces are in such contention with each other, because they're so philosophically differentiated.
Good fortune.
As an aside, I'm sorry, Taitu, they came up with this ginger ale which was like cherry flavored or raspberry flavored. I can't remember exactly. That was actually pretty good, but I don't like the regular ginger ale, and I actually can't drink it because it hurts my throat. You must be the Death Knight that so impressed the Exark Hataru. Can you help? The Elador dig just behind me is overrun with strange stone creatures. These so-called Goran actually devour minerals, metabolize them, and grow crystalline structures from their arms and back. Like most of the wildlife on this world, they completely baffle us. It's almost as if this is a world that began to be designed by titans and keepers, and then they for some reason abandoned it in the middle of it, and then the old gods took over, but they went away too, and we have no idea why. Please slay as many of these as you can and gather their crystal scales for me. You'll be protecting our earthworkers and aiding our research at the same time.
Do not lose faith.
Yeah, by the way, spoiler alert, there's a very, very strong feeling that the Titans or the Keepers started to work on Draenor and then stopped. And we'll talk more about that later. These are elemental creatures, by the way, in a similar manner to all the other creatures we've talked about that are organic, but still elemental in nature. That's actually a common trend in Draenor. There are several creatures on Draenor that are actually elemental by their nature. Technically including the ogres, although I think by that point any elementalism has been bled out of them. So, in response to Taitu's question about them running from the Burning Legion, the Burning Legion's purpose is, of course, to wipe out all life everywhere, everywhen. But one member of the Burning Legion, who happens to basically be the second in command of the Burning Legion, and more recently, the first in command of the Burning Legion, has a huge grudge against Valen. He actually genuinely, I love this, he genuinely believes Valen betrayed him, personally. And so, I am referring, of course, to Kil'jaeden. So Kil'jaeden is really, really pissed off at Valen, and any time Kil'jaeden has heard any word about Valen or the Draenei, he has basically dropped everything and told the entirety of the Legion to go wherever they are and wipe them out. So the Legion has, in a manner, been chasing the Draenei ever since, yes. Because Kil'jaeden's got issues. And yes, the Legion are actually surprisingly organized. Shrug. I didn't mean literally killing each other, competition, Jayla. I was just trying to emphasize the different philosophies of Draenei people. Because you see those philosophies present in several of the Draenei. Valen tends to be more the we acclimate to our surroundings thing, whereas some Draenei tend to be more we want to acclimate our surroundings to us. And it's worth noting that most of the Draenei who follow the more... Well, I'll go ahead and spoil something for you here. Sorry. Many of the Draenei willingly joined the Burning Legion in Warlords. And those Draenei are probably the ones who are more on Hataru's side of thinking, aka, we will make this serve us, rather than we will adapt to this. And that's why I brought up that dichotomy and why I felt it was important. Yeah, pretty much, Norlex. And yeah, I was going to talk about the actual war between the Breakers and the Overgrowth when we get there. The Breakers haven't even come up yet, which is why I haven't mentioned them yet. The Breakers are actively at war with the Overgrowth, but then again, the Breakers are led by sentient sapient beings, just like the Overgrowth are led by sentient sapient beings. And I guess I'll talk about this since you just brought it up. I was going to save this for when we get to Gorgrund. One of the things that has been theorized is that the reason that the Zanger won in our Draenor is because of the fact that the Overgrowth and the Breakers spent so much of their time and attention fighting each other that the Zanger just kind of kept growing until they couldn't stop it anymore. And based on what you yourself said, Necro, that does seem to be likely, doesn't it? Given the fact that, you know, the Zanger, nobody was really paying attention to the Zanger in Warlords. It's just there. Slowly growing. Hey.
Arcanon Poros.
What's the status inside the dig? Unreal. The crystalline matrix is flawless, as if produced by one of our forges on Arcus. I wish we could hook up these creatures to our machinery, but I suspect the Exark would take issue with that. Thank you for your help.
Remain vigilant.
By the way, you're probably expecting me to give you some lore on the Gorons. Okay. I got nothing else. I mean, as I mentioned, they are another one of the elemental-type creatures in Draenor, of which there are many. And that's basically all I got. They eat. Whatever they eat, they literally consume and it becomes a part of themselves. You know, crystals in this case. That can happen to rock or dirt. We will actually later see a Goron which metabolizes black rock ore into its hide, which is one of the reasons why that is a raid boss. Because black rock ore is very, 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 very strong. Hi, Bragwin. I don't know what else to say. I hope it went well. Oh, fair enough, Demcro. Uh-oh. He's got a force field.
My people can be so much more.
Excellent. I will send in some peacekeepers to quell any of the remaining problems. Exark Nyala may be right. Perhaps I am too aggressive in adapting our technology to this world. But I will never quit! Our civilization must move forward.
The Draenei will rebuild.
Yeah, no kidding, Narlex. Hey, Shuryu.
Our walls are impervious.
The council is almost assembled. Othar, myself, Hataru, and Nyala are ready. Only Exarch Maladar remains. He has not been himself since he returned from his capture at the hands of the Iron Horde. But Vindicator Marad was able to track him down. Find Maladar at the Fey Landing.
Never hesitate. Exarch Hataru, how do you plan to vote with the council?
This alliance from another world intrigues me. I would give them our full support.
You would risk everything we have built. I cannot agree.
Well, unfortunately, you're already in the minority, Akama. I hate to point that out. I really want to make a point here. This is actually some clever storytelling on their part. And I'll admit, they caught me with this. I know I'm giving it away. Sorry. So, all the way back in BC, there's this dungeon called the Akanai Crypts, where the last boss is Exarch Maladar.
The sole living remnant of the glory that once strode the halls of Akanai, Maladar has been driven mad by the loss of everyone and everything he ever loved. His lunatic dedication to the preservation of their memory has driven him to a mastery of the dark arts. He was the Draenei who was basically going completely insane and was turning to necromancy to try and preserve the souls and lives of his people, except he was doing it badly, especially since he didn't know what the hell he was doing. So, yeah, that's Exark Maladar. The Exark who went crazy because of bad circumstances and ended up fighting against us. So, we keep hearing about Maladar as kind of screwed up in the head. And this is the second time it's been mentioned. And we're leading up to this big, oh god, what's going to happen moment. And so, me and Pax, as we were going through this, both were like, oh jeez, we're going to have to fight Maladar again. Poor guy.
I would forfeit my own soul to protect my people.
I believe it. Xylon, my alliance friend from Tanaan. I have not forgotten my debt to you. I will do everything in my power to convince the Council to support you in every way. However, I have grave concerns about our safety here. Nothing is the same when I returned. There is whispering. Always whispering everywhere. Marad cannot see it, but there are traces of fell energy. We have been infiltrated. I must attend to the Exark Council, but I need you to investigate. Follow these traces of fell energy. If there are truly traitors in our midst, they will have to have some kind of hideout. Find it. I will wait with you, with the other Exarchs.
There is no... Follow the trail. Find our hidden foe.
The Draenei don't age. They have the more classic style of infinite life. What do you need?
I was seeing if you had a hamper.
I have that hamper, but that's it.
No, like a carry hamper.
I don't, sorry. I like how this is literally a trail of fell. I like to think that we're following a scent more than, you know, a literal, this is the path the fell energy took, kind of a thing, but shrug. And yeah, I agree, Darker. Which is why you need someone like me in charge of the dead. Where are you going, Death Knight? Nowhere. Just into this random, mysterious-looking cave, right next to you. Where there's a succubi. Right here. Seriously, there's a succubi right here. You guys are terrible! A flesh-bound book lies on an unholy altar. Your skin crawls. Also funny if you're a warlock. Maladar was right. You set the book ablaze, but not before noting its contents. The demonic tomb was dedicated to enchanting weapons with fel. It looked as though the goal was to ensnare the victim's souls. The Exarchs must be warned, the traitors are amongst them. The council should be meeting right now. It's really dumb, Norlex. I actually don't know. I haven't watched it. A friend of mine watched it, and he said it was really dumb. I need to watch it myself, but I haven't yet. Well, I'm not either, Norlex, but that's because I don't think he's the reason Mega Man was good. To be blunt.
This is how he was found. Murdered.
Exarch Nael, weren't you overheard arguing with Hataru earlier?
We always argue. That doesn't mean I killed him.
The weapon is tainted with fell energy.
You seem to know an awful lot about the tools of our enemy.
It is my duty to know. Allow me to speak with the body.
I forbid it. He has suffered enough.
I agree. Stand down, Exarch. Enough damage has been done.
So, that's Hataru, the tech guy I mentioned earlier. Also, the comment Naela made is part of why I mentioned the whole, I didn't mean literal physical competition. That comment, we always argue, is part of that whole philosophical difference thing. But again, they were still always, you know, working to further Draenei society, even if they were disagreeing on how they should do it. You know, there wasn't literally coming to blows.
I have to admit, this is cute. The problem is, if I'm actually looking at this with analysis mode on, it's really, really obvious who's actually behind this. Probably the single best, easiest way to deflect... Okay, how many of you out there play board games? I'm sure most of you do. But when I say board games, I mean like Settlers of Catan, or Shadows over Camelot, or, you know, Ticket to Ride. You know, board games, not Monopoly. There's a type of board game that is... hello. There's a type of board game that is referred to... Oh, I see the problem. As co-op with a trader. The way this type of board game works is everyone is ostensibly working on the same side, right? However, one person is randomly selected... a number of people, I should say, not always one person. A number of people are randomly selected to be a trader or traders. And those people are actively trying to prevent the other group of players from winning. But the only people who know who the traders are the traders themselves. Make sense? I'm sure some of you have played these kind of games. I'm actually really, really good at those kind of games. Anyways, so, the best strategy I've ever come up with for that, if I am playing the trader, and as an aside, I absolutely hate playing the trader in those games. But if I am playing the trader, the single best way to make sure that people don't suspect I am the trader is to not make waves, first of all. And second of all, to basically draw attention to everyone but you. By which I mean, don't flat out be like, oh, you're Hitler, unless you're doing it jokingly. Rather, try to point out, you know, if someone does something, especially if it's a bad tactical move, point it out. Be like, why would you make a move like that? You could have done this other thing that would have been smarter instead. And just let that comment sit there for other people to be like, why did he do that? And then don't actually go out of your way to try and do anything super suspicious yourself until you're basically ready for the death blow. I usually win those kind of games, by the way. I point this up because that's exactly what the trader here did. The trader immediately was like, oh, you know, and just deflecting to other people. It depends, Takoida. There are basically rules that vary from game to game, but for example, to use Shadows over Camelot as an idea, there's a rule variant where basically everyone randomly decides if there's a traitor, but it's possible, based on the way you draw it, that no one is a traitor. To give you what I mean by that, let's say you have four players, okay? So you have five different cards you can pull randomly, and 4 of these cards are non-traitor cards. So there is a traitor card in there, and statistically it is likely that one of you will pull it, but it is still possible for there to be no traitor. Make sense? You say that, Takoida, but if you're doing it right, it doesn't pull any attention to you at all. He wasn't doing it right. He was too blatant about it. But, yeah.
We must preserve the sanctity of the fallen.
Dead. Exark Hataru is dead. His body was discovered moments ago, stabbed in the back. The weapon that killed him was fell in origin. Tell me everything you know. Yes, the traitors wanted to capture Hataru's soul. Someone wants something he knows, dead or alive. We must act at once. This was no betrayal from within. Or this was a betrayal from within. There's no other explanation. None of but the Exarchs trust each other now. Especially me. But Othar and Nakama can damn their laws. We've got to rout the traitor, and the only way to do it is to speak to the corpse. Join me just outside the altar of Shatar atop the eastern cliffs. Soulbinder Nayami and I will perform an exorcism to save Hataru's immortal soul, and maybe learn who did this to him. Do you trust me? And again, this is a nice misdirection, because we all know Maladar was a bad guy, driven insane, I should say. So he wasn't actually bad guy, he was an opponent in BC.
Never hesitate. There is a rat among us. I will find out who.
Correct, Darker. So, for those of you who are not aware, I'll go ahead and give something away right now. Soulbinder Nayami. Auchindoun is a boss in Auchindoun because she's working with the Shadow Council. So, yeah.
I can hear the souls of the dead.
Fell energy. Hey, E. Thomas. Fell energy, even as we are fell energies are even as now devouring Exark Hataru's soul. We must act quickly. Soulbinder Naomi will anchor his spirit to this realm while I exorcise the demons assaulting him. With luck, we'll find out who murdered him.
I will be unable to help once the ritual begins. Stay focused.
The body is ready, Exark. I will anchor his spirit.
Golad, Malak, Velshiva. Follow the sound of my voice, spirit. Lend your sight to the living. Golad, Malak, Velshiva.
Begone, Exark! This one, and all he knows, belongs to us now.
You may have claimed his body, but his immortal soul is mine to protect. Golad, Malak, Velshiva! Golad, Malak, Velshiva! Light, give me strength!
Exark! They're tearing his soul apart! We must stop this!
Not until we know. We must know who did this to him. Exark, Malak, Talumai, Hataru, come to the light. Auchindoun, the wanted. Wanted what, Hataru? The codes to Auchindoun? Your security wards?
Maladar, we're losing him!
Let me just toss a death and decay here.
Who, Hataru? Who had you killed? Soulbinder. What happened? Why did you stop it?
We were about to lose him. You saw him. He called out to me for help. His spirit is safe now.
He mentioned an Exark. A betrayal from within the council itself. Naomi, take the body to Auchindoun and lay it to rest.
Oh. Yeah.
The dead speak to those who listen.
One of the 5 Exarchs is dead. Another is a traitor. Dark times. We will end this here and now. Can I count on you for one final task? I must give the traitor no place to hide. I have a focusing lens that will illuminate cloaked fell energy. If it were placed on a high point, it would act as a beacon, lighting up anyone in town who reeks of fell taint. There's a prayer circle atop the Exarch's rise to the north that will serve our purpose. Plant the focusing lens. If you will reveal anything, deal with it. Then meet me below.
Remember.
Yeah, Maladar didn't realize what that was. I'm just going to say this out loud for anybody not reading chat. She killed him. Soulbinder Naomi here is the one who actually did the stabbing. And so, you know, he started to say Soulbinder Naomi, and then she stopped the rituals so he couldn't oust her. And said, oh, he was calling my name. He needed help. That's why I stopped the ritual. I'll definitely go to Auchindoun. He. As I mentioned, she is a boss in Auchindoun.
Ah, it's you. Trust me, friend. I will handle this. You may go.
So, I know what you're thinking. Okay, I know at least a little bit who most of the other Exarchs are. Who the hell is this guy? And why is he so relevant? Well, I hope you guys paid attention in BC.
What is that? Is that Maladar's work? No, no. You don't need to do that. Ah! Damn him! I thought I'd gotten rid of Maladar when I gave him up to the Iron Horde. Yes, I had Hataru killed, and you are next!
Trust me, this is somebody we know from our universe. Or rather, we recognize the name, I should say. I do like how he's a full-on arcane
I am
mage.
not a traitor here. It was the false prophet Velen who betrayed our people. I serve our true master now, the Legion whose call I once denied. My lord Sargeras will scorch this pathetic world as he has countless others.
Boop, boop. Oh yeah, but there's 2 Valens too, Narlex, and 2 Akamas. And... Oh, right, he's a demon. Yeah, whatever, I'm
I have
done.
sworn the sacrament. I have taken my new name, Sokrathar.
Remember him? He was pretty much the end boss of the Netherstorm.
There are others at my command, in Shatrath and Auchindoun.
Yeah, there's a surprisingly large number of Draenei who turned traitor towards the Legion.
When next we meet, it will be on my terms.
Oh, I'll kill the crap out of you,
Tell the
Sokrathar.
remaining Exarchs to number their days.
Twice, actually. I think the point was more to emphasize the ease with which so many Draenei could heed the call of the Legion, and will continue to do so in the future. The Sargerai.
I can hear the souls of the dead.
The Exarch listens to your tale, his face contorting into concern, grief, anger. So... Othar has lost his way. Sokrathar, he calls himself now. At last we have our answer. I fear my capture at the hands of the Iron Horde was his doing. There may be other traitors among us, like Soulbinder Naomi. I must hurry to Auchindoun and make sure we are safe. In the meantime, I believe the Exarchs owe you a decision.
Tradition binds my people.
No, we will be sticking to vanilla mode, Taitu. Especially since I don't actually like enemy scaling, as I've mentioned before.
We are the eyes of the Prophet.
Only 3 members of the only 3 members remain of the Exark Council. But we are deeply indebted to you. The vote is unanimous. Your alliance will have our full support on Draenor. We're going to place a Draenei representative under your direct command. 3 potential candidates are here in the courtyard, and you've done a quest for all 3. Speak to them and choose which one you want.
Fight on your own terms.
Probably, Thomas. So that's the Rangari we did the Stinger's quest for. That's the Apprentice we helped with the Goran, and that's the Vindicator we helped against the Shadowmoons. Which one should I pick, guys? Who do you think would be most benefit by? A Rangari, and all that brings. An Artificer, or a Paladin, basically. I don't know their abilities and don't care, so this is purely a lore question. Who should we take with us? Who should join our forces? The great and powerful alliance which will crush the Horde! See, now this is actually funny that you guys are all picking Vindicator. I'd pick him. But that's just my general mentality there. If I have a general option to improve my military forces, improve my ability, improve my land, basically, farming, terraforming, that kind of thing, or improve my technology, I usually lean towards technology. But again, I have no intention to use any of these on these characters, so it matters not at all. So, instead, I will take... So we've got 2 for Vindicator. You know, we have a poll bot now. Poll. Open. Whom should we take? We'll leave this up for like 2 minutes. Rangari. Artificer. Vindicator. And we'll leave it up for 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes to vote. Vote! In the interim, believe it or not, I do have something to talk about here. Namely the fact that even though... this is related to something that... oh, excuse me. E. Thomas just said the idea that they've probably had problems with people going Sargere for some time. If for those of you not familiar with the term, a Sargere refers to a Draenei who's basically turned traitor and decided to join the Legion and become a full fel-infused Eridar, okay? Now, obviously that temptation would have existed for the many thousands of years that ever since they left Argus. But more to the point, I personally feel, and we don't really see a lot of this, but I personally feel that we have a good reason to suspect that part of the reason the demonic horde was able to bring down the old Draenei in our timeline is because there were traitors. And I'm not just talking about the whole Duraton problem, which, you know, it was brought up earlier. I'm talking about the fact that they were probably, since the demonic horde was basically following the same taskmasters, that the Sargere within the Draenei would have also similarly, you know, given away intel, or misdirected intel, or sabotage defenses, you know, that kind of a thing, making the demonic horde's conquest of them easier than it otherwise would have been. Might not have been necessary. The demonic horde was a hell of a fighting force, even if it was completely indirected and chaotic. But I've always felt that, and I wanted to share that with you guys. That's a good question, Big Bad. I don't know. I know of no instance where that has happened. What can I say, Taitu? Oh, ended in a tie! That's great, because this is actually a blind bot. In other words, it doesn't tell you the results as you're going through. So, you guys tied without actually knowing anything. Yep. We had a tie between Rangari and Vindicator. That's great. You guys are awesome. Well, between those two, I'd probably take the Rangari. So, Rangari it is.
The Naru have not forgotten us.
Oh, we should talk to all these. Excuse me.
Favor the road
Hang on. We'll talk to
few.
the one that didn't... Why didn't you vote? I told you had 2 minutes to vote. I flat out said this is a 2-minute poll.
Crona Kai Christor.
Commander, I am Apprentice Artificer Adren. Before Hataru was murdered, I was one of his most trusted assistants. I was an artificer using Draenei technology to disable foes long enough for me or someone else to crush them. I suppose among your people I'd be considered a warrior? An engineer? Nah.
Good health.
May the life embrace you.
Commander, it is a pleasure to meet you. When I was young, I trained hard to become an anchorite in the priesthood. But the light walks us down mysterious paths. My defensive spells were so powerful, the Prophet himself encouraged me to train with the Vindicators.
Favor the road.
The Legion's end
Greetings, Commander.
draws near.
When we first arrived on Draenor, this whole world was a mystery, a dangerous mystery. The Rangari were tasked with exploring all these new hostile environments. We learned to survive on our feet, using the natural resources of the land around us to survive, and slip unseen in and out of enemy territory. So... Icy Veins, J. Leia, is the place I'd go if you want just generalized information. So Necro votes Rangari, and Gnarlex votes Vindicator, which ties us up again. Sis! I don't know if she's here. I'll text her. Rangari or Vindicator? Wow, it has no idea what to do with that word. Glen Goaty is what it translated that as. I'll just spell it here. So, this is another example of how the garrisons were done right while leveling. In other words, this is part of our Garrison experience right here. There's these 3 people who we've done quests with, who we have learned a tiny bit about, and we get a little bit of backstory about them, and we get to choose between them. And the choice feels relatively significant unless you're trying to go ahead and go for the min-maxing, in which case, whoever has the Dispel, which I believe is her, is the best. But anyways, point being, if you're not min-maxing, if you're not on your second playthrough, this is a cool decision point. And again, kind of ties the questing into the Garrison. We are now getting another follower for our Garrison, so we can do more missions. And it indicates how the Draenei have actually started to basically join with our forces, just as we are joining with theirs. You see what I mean by this? The fact that the leveling experience in the Garrison is like this, and that's one of the reasons I feel Garrison's worked up to 100. Up till the end of Nagrin, basically. My sister is not answering me. We will never get someone. We will leave without picking someone. No, okay, hang on. Oh, so my sister had an idea for a donation incentive. I'm not sure if I like this, but I thought I'd toss it at you guys. So right now, the normal suit is winning by such a landslide, and I really doubt we're going to get that many more donations for the rest of the Lorerun. So instead, she had an idea for people could donate, any amount. It has to actually be over $1, or else PayPal won't take it. But donate like $2 or $10 or $5, excuse me, or whatever. And you in your donation comment, you say, for example, the Onyx Netherwing Drake. And so from that point on both characters, I will start using that mount instead of whatever mount I actually am using. It's up to you guys. I leave the option available. I'll go with the Rangari, because Sis isn't there.
Barkanan Poros.
Che, I choose you!
Good health. Long
We must
life.
learn the secrets of Draenor.
An excellent choice. We will send your pick directly to your garrison to help with any missions you encounter. About the supplies you requested. Your laborers below have finished the harvest and are ready to cart supplies. Back to your garrison. Don't worry about the safety of your caravan this time. I will dispatch a Rangari detail to shadow them from the woods and protect them. The Exarchs will always watch over you. Your supplies should be waiting for you when you return to your garrison. Good luck with your campaign, Xylem.
Travel light and move quickly.
What do you mean, Taito? Explain your question. I guess I should just answer both questions, because either you're asking what's the money for, in which case my continued existence as a person streaming and making YouTube videos. If you're asking what the donation incentive is, well, we had two. Had one, I should say, and that's the one for which... That was quick. I actually didn't expect that. Which was for which outfit we wore, but the one outfit has drawn ahead so far, I thought I'd add the other incentive. Frostworm. Duh! Hang on. That explains why you didn't respond to me. Calling. So, you want me to do the Frost Drake. You got it. That is the best mount in the game, after all. Would you prefer the Bloodbathed or the other one whose name I can never, or the Icebound?
Seriously, you were the one that texted me?
Yeah. Hi. It's too late now. See, this is why she didn't answer me. It's ridiculous.
I was making the bed.
I was trying
and
to
I was
decide
two
something.
rooms away. You could have just yelled at me.
I did. You can ask them.
Oh. Yell louder next time.
Icebound, you got it. There we go. You about ready to go, kiddo?
Go say hi to the stream.
Hey, come here.
Hi, stream.
Hi, here, I'll show it so you can see what they're saying. Hey, you're kind of low here. We gotta pull you up, okay? Ready? Ready?
I'm kind of high here.
Hey, kiddo. Hug.
Really high.
Mama's
well, because
super
I'm
tall.
standing.
Ah! We have, see that? That is called a donation. Can you say thank you for the donation?
I don't want to.
You can't say it? Are you about to be crushed for not saying thank you?
I said that.
Yeah.
Say thank you.
All
Thank you.
For $1,000, Taitu, I will stop flying for the rest of the Lorerun. That's my price. Ah, you're getting your hair in
Seriously.
my mouth, kiddo.
Thank you. It's finally getting long again.
And we're about to chop it off. No, I kid.
No, I'm getting ready to go get my nails done. When I get back, we're chopping.
That's right.
Unless you're hungry.
Well, first of
Thank
all,
you, Bragwin.
thank you, Crazelays,
I just
for the donation.
covered the stuff. The gray.
We will eat
It's actually
lunch
my
when you
natural
get
color.
back, okay? Okay? Okay. But first you gotta get your nails done. Does that sound fun?
I don't want my nails done.
Then I will eat them. No.
They're not tasty.
That's true. What do they taste like?
They taste like
I'm gonna go brush my teeth.
nails
You
and
play with
chalk.
it for a minute.
Okay. They taste like pleh. 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 Here, sit up.
Where's Tom?
Hey, Jaina. So, what does Mario do when he's going from planet to planet?
He rides the ship.
That's right. He rides a ship from planet to planet. How many different planets did he go to?
I don't know.
Well, which ones did he go to then? Do you remember? Do you remember the fire one?
Yeah.
What was on the fire planet?
Ice.
That's right. There was ice on the fire planet. Do you remember him going to a grassy planet?
Yeah.
What did he do on the grassy planet? Did he meet someone there?
Yeah.
Who did he meet there?
I don't know.
Yes, you do. Remember. Think. I'll give you a hint.
Yeah.
Who did he meet on the grassy planet?
Yoshi.
Say it. Say it loud.
Yoshi.
That's right. He met Yoshi on the grass planet.
And who did he meet in the fire planet?
He met Bowser, the big dragon on the fire planet, didn't he?
Yeah.
And they were having a disagreement. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Who won in that fight? Did Mario win?
Yeah.
That's right. And yes, this is my niece, by the way. What else did we do? These are our adventures here, or I should say her adventures. Do you remember when Mario... do you remember trying to get the blue shine?
Mm-hmm.
Did we ever get a blue shine?
Yeah.
Did we ever get a yellow shine?
Yeah.
Did we ever find a pink shine?
No.
Yeah, we were looking all over for a pink shine, but we just couldn't find one. Where did we look for a pink shine? Did we look in the beach? Whoa, whoa, careful, careful.
Mama,
Careful.
asking me something.
Okay, okay. Bye, Jaina. We looked all over. Bye-bye, little one. Give me a hug. Hug. You have fun. We looked all over Mario Sunshine for a pink shine. We just couldn't find one. It was horrible.
What do you need?
Commander, Zipfizzle arrived with your laborers in tow moments ago. We've got a huge surplus of food now and promises of more where that came from. Apparently the Draenei threw in some other resources as well. Good work, sir. What should we build next?
I'll call in a few favors.
I won't leave you, kiddo. Anyways, Craze, if you'd like, I'll let you pick a mount after we've done a few quests, because I want Gnarlix to have mount time first. If that makes sense, which I imagine it does. So now that we've dealt with the Exark situation, why don't we go deal with the Shadowmoon situation, shall we? Does that sound good, guys? I hope so, because that's what we're doing, regardless of your choice in the matter. I agree, Necro. The Alliance Garrison music is awesome. The Horde Garrison music is not. In my opinion, of course. Damn it, come on. There we go. I'm trying to get my tab set up properly. I've got like 6 windows open right now. Hey look! It's some orcs! Hi orcs! Hey, what's up? Listen, we're trying to kill all orcs on sight because we're evil. So, listen. It's nothing personal. Now look, you see this weapon? This is literally a mace that has a spinning grinder on it and a crystalline core, so this is going to hurt like hell when it goes through your midsection. I'm really sorry. It's okay. It will be so brutally visceral
that you probably won't even realize from the horror how much pain you're in. So, for the Alliance! Oh, I'm supposed to talk to you. My son, Karlza, is beyond stubborn. After we split from the Shadowmoon clan, he refused to let go of his relationship with a young Shadowmoon orc. I forbid him to see her anymore, and he ran off today and has not returned. I do not trust Dolmak. Like the other Shadowmoon orcs, she continues to dabble in the void.
Farewell.
If you find Kralza, and he is with that void witch, tell him his mother's looking for him.
Loktar.
How I long to hold Katla. No star or moon can compare to her beauty. Alas, I am a simple boar farmer. If only I could find a way to sneak away from this pathetic excuse for a job, and pick some lunar blossoms for her. I wouldn't dare confess my love without a gift.
Be safe.
Sure. In case you're, not fully aware, these used to be Shadowmoon orcs. Who knew? Apparently some of the Shadowmoon orcs actually had a brain, and when Ner'zhul said, let's go be evil, they said, no. What a shock. Yeah, there we go. By the way, I use Storm Peaks for my Garrison music. I probably shouldn't have to explain that one. That's a good question, Big Bad. Honestly, there's one weapon I've always really had a predilection for. It's called Armageddon. I'm sure some of you actually know what that is just from me mentioning the name. It's from 25 Noxuramas, 4 Horsemen. I even know exactly where it drops. I spent forever farming it. It looks like... Give me just a moment. Dip, dip, dip. Yeah, come on. Looks like this. It's hard to even show off properly because it's a huge freaking sword. It's basically several chunks of metal. Whoa, whoa, there we go. That have been banded together. So you can kind of see there's another chunk where it's banded together, and then the second chunk, and then the third chunk is going to be harder to show off, but it's over there and you can see it. And it is a wonderfully brutal looking sword. I actually plan in Legion to build an entire transmog for my Paladin around this set. So for a little bit of idea of the size, here's me zooming all the way out. And yeah, you can see the thing against a Worgen. And as you can see, I have this sword, again, on my Paladin. So, finally got that thing. Yay. I don't care for the 10-man 4 Horseman sword that much, though. The weird thing at the end just doesn't appeal to me. Aesthetically, I mean. Also, the other weapon that I find to be the most brutal looking is actually the one I'm wielding, which is why I grabbed it for this transmog. This thing just looks really, really brutal to me. I mean, look at that. Spiked rotating grinder mace. Just, yeah. Hey, Dragoon. What's up? Let's be honest, guys. The more impractical it looks, the more powerful it is. Yeah, I know, Draculus. They're adding that in Legion. I'm aware. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it really does, doesn't it? Actually, there's one other weapon. The
that I really enjoy and I hope to get a copy of someday. I'm sorry for doing this. Give me a second, guys. Let's just kill that filter. I'll look for it manually. This shouldn't take long. Wait, I have it capped to my level. Hang on. 92, 100. There we go. Come on, where are you? Shut up, stomach. There it is. This thing. This is quite literally Black Hand's weapon. It's actually called the Black Hand. And it looks awesome. Look at that thing. Unlike the other weapons, this thing actually looks fairly practical. It's just a giant chunk of crude iron with a forge in it, with some spikes taped to it at the end of a large stick. And it also has that wonderful Iron Horde aesthetic I absolutely love. I gotta be honest, I wish we had more Iron Horde cosmetic stuff. In other words, stuff that looks like the Iron Horde's aesthetic. The very crude, very roughly hewn, giant chunks of iron on top of just jagged edges of plates of metal. I really, really enjoy that aesthetic a lot. And there's almost no actual transmogs in the entire game that look like that. The outfit I have on is about as close as we get, and this isn't really quite there. This is close, but not quite.
Fool, if you don't respect Ner'zhul, you will be sacrificed.
Well, okay, if I have to.
You cannot stop Ner'zhul. The power of the void will consume you.
Baby Winston's like, I got this, guys!
Mother was right. The Shadowmoon clan cannot be trusted.
Would this be a good time to point out that he is Shadowmoon clan? I mean, I know he's former Shadowmoon clan, but still. I tend to do the same thing, Jalea. My transmogs are intended to look like I feel the character should based on their personality. Which is why it irritates me how I've got like 4 characters whose transmogs are incomplete right now.
What do you need?
How can I help you, Death Knight? Lunar Blossoms, you are too kind. I can't wait to give these to Katla.
May your blades never dull.
Love is in the air. Look what Xylem brought me. Katla will surely fall in love with me now. Nom 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 nom.
Hey! You ate my flowers! No!
I give up. Doomed to live a life of solitude. Yes, I have, Dragoon. Roll my eyes.
Loktar!
Akosh Magosh, Death Knight. I knew that Void Witch was no good.
Go forth to victory.
Thank you. Maybe next time my son will listen to his mother. What do you mean, Magister? Well, there's Jane in Othersum. No, I kid. I don't know. No, Takoida. Basically, he had the flowers, and he was like, look at these flowers, Hog, that I will use to woo my love. And the Hog was like, nom, and just pulled them out of his hand and ate them. And there should be another quest here, but there isn't, so I guess we'll move on for now. He does not drop any of his attire, no Nothrism, sorry. Yes, there are the Stormwind Nobles, who have definitely done some evil. There's a lot of smaller human villains we've fought across WoW. I mean, a lot, like hundreds of various human villains across all of WoW. But none of them have been the level of, say, Arthas. And it's worth noting Arthas wasn't actually a villain, although that's complicated. the way I RP is I usually RP up here. I usually don't walk up to a mob. Hang on. I usually don't do this. Ahem. Yrel, it is good to see you again. Oh, sorry. I gotta do this as if I was doing this on an RP server. Oh, there's another player. Now I immediately gotta stop. Hashtag other players. I don't do that. I have tinkered with that back in the day, but I haven't done that in a very long time. Now, the way I RP is I RP it in my head. I build the character's personality and the story arc and the way they interact with things and how much of the actual story of WoW they do is all up here. I actually told you guys, for example, that the 1 through 60 kata stuff was done by several of my characters who were technically alts, some of whom story ended and some of whose stories, continued going on and so forth and so on. And whereas only a few of my characters actually kept going on, I actually retired a character completely too. Zalosh, my main, I actually dumped the money into renaming Zalosh into another character name, Frozen. So it's technically the same character, but I dumped the money into renaming her just to indicate, that retirement, because that's how much I cared about that aspect of the story. So, that's how I do RPing.
We welcome your help.
Thank you for coming, Zalom. There's much to be done.
Many depend on you.
I see 1,000 glimpses of the future, swimming in the chaotic blur. All I see is darkness. Oh, my hood was down. There we go. It is possible to focus my energies to see a true eventuality, the future most likely to come to pass. I will need an oracle stone to focus my power, and a special elixir to still my mind. To make the elixir, I will need the following ingredients: wing dust from the swamp ladders, fresh hearts from the hydra, and a rare star lily. Meet me at Moonwillow Peak when this task is done.
You are the instrument of change.
Yeah, Garithos doesn't count. Well, why am I still walking? Go! Speedrun mentality. Go. Yeah, so, okay, I've told this story before, but basically, thanks to some irritation and bullcrap, my first account was permabanned. So the account I have had since release, since launch, is gone and is never coming back. The account you see me playing on is my second account that I made right around the era of BC. So all of these characters you see here are from the BC era, at the oldest. And the oldest one being my main, Zalosh / Frozen Sorrow, my warrior. My undead warrior. For the Horde! Right.
Come. Speak with me.
Yrel leads my rangers on a search for the prisoners of the Shadowmoon village. Their work is extremely dangerous, so I need you to carry out a contingency mission. Silene has mastered an illusion spell which will allow you to infiltrate Shazgul safely. Speak to her to disguise yourself, then plant explosives at the quartermaster's depot. In case anything goes wrong, set them off to create a distraction.
Mano Ekta, my friend.
You wish to buy? Trade?
Come, sit by the fire. Would you like some frog legs? Oh, it was horrible. My husband and I were fishing in the marsh. I fell asleep, and when I woke up, he had been turned into a toad. I am sure it was one of those Shadowmoon orcs I hear so much about. He jumped into the muddy waters before I could catch him. Will you help me find my lost love, Death Knight? Yeah, sure.
May your days be long and your hardships few.
Bring me back any toads you find hibernating in the mud. I'm sure one of them is my husband. Oh, such a vigorous young lad. Such is the spring in your step. Such a sparkle in your eye. When you get to my age, it's all aches and pains. Luckily, I have a recipe for an unguent that will soothe my joints. I just need the ooze from the skin of the belly toads. Would you be dear dear and help an old woman out?
Dionysaka.
Sure. Why not?
So, I guess some of you haven't heard the permaban story. So this was many years ago. Obviously, this was when BC had just come out. I hadn't even made it to 70 on my first account when this happened. And then, you know, BC came out. And then I basically quit WoW for a while because I was so pissed off about it. Basically, I did nothing wrong, but they had no way of knowing that, is the summary. So here's what it was. Have any of you out there ever done any bug testing? QA stuff? I have, obviously. And I used to have a custom memory reading program, which I used to use to try and actually, for those who don't know, what I mean by memory reading is literally reading the active memory of your computer while it's being written to and pulled from in a program to try and diagnose what's going on. Okay? It's a great way for beta testing and for trying to track down bugs and the like. So... yes, that's right, I just pulled the hive down to the ground. Anywho, so I had one of those going while I was randomly doing random stuff in WoW. To be honest, I don't remember what I was doing at the time. Again, this was vanilla era. After Nox had been out for a while, but before the launch event of BC. And so, you know, I was just doing some beta testing in the background because I like to multitask. While I was trying to... I think I was queuing for AV or something like that. Anyways, it was a fairly irregular thing, and I did it for quite a while. As you might imagine, that had nothing to do with WoW, but back in the day, I don't know how many of you people have been playing since Vanilla, but back in Vanilla especially, and a little bit in BC, Blizzard was a lot more ban-happy than they are nowadays. They would ban you for fairly minor infringements, and in some cases they would perma-ban you for fairly minor infringements. So one day, I try to log in and it just won't let me, and I look into it, and sure enough, I have been perma-banned. Not just banned, by the way, perma-banned, account locked out. The guild that those characters had still existed and everything. Later on, when they added the mechanic in Wrath, I want to say, where you could transfer leadership, I finally got my guild back. It's actually the same guild I have now, which is the Revenant Whisperer. Anyways, so yeah, they just flat out did that, and I'm like, what? And at the time, I had no idea why. It is worth noting that I'm still not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure why it is that that's why they did the permaban. But I've never been able to think of anything else I did that might have qualified. They never told me. I actually went to the support network and was like, I'm sorry, you know, why is this happening? Can you at least tell me what it is you're banning me for? And to which they said, nope! And they didn't tell me jack. I was kind of pissed. And hello, Galaxy PvP. Yeah, I was pretty pissed about that. That's why I quit WoW the first time. In fact, it was pretty much the launch event of BC that convinced me to come back. I actually don't remember the exact timing, because I know I did the BC launch event on this account. And I know that I have been playing since then on this account. Still, you know, it's still the same account. So, I'm going to assume that it was BC that specifically convinced me to come back. And then, you know, I was participating in the launch event, because I was there for that, and I remember Cruel stomping around, or Cruel and you know, the whole demonic invasion thing that was happening at the Dark Portal, and the gear you can't get anymore, and yeah, I am still upset about that, being completely honest. Fun fact: as much as I am Horde centric now, 9 of my characters being Horde versus 2 that are Alliance. Back then, it was the exact opposite. I had 2 Horde characters and 9 Alliance. That was because of my friends, though. Most of my friends were actually on the Alliance side. And yeah, you remember how I mentioned how much I hate Vanilla? Part of the reason is because I've leveled in Vanilla a lot. I sat down and figured it out how many times I've leveled in Vanilla. Because I leveled through Vanilla on the old account, and then I leveled through Vanilla on the new account on every character that was made prior to Wrath's time. All the way up to 80.
So yeah, I hate vanilla leveling, and I will never, ever, ever do that again unless you pay me $1 billion. Or some equivalent thing. Because I shouldn't say never, but I never want to go back to vanilla leveling, because God almighty, I did it way too many times, and I was really sick of it. By the way, in case you can't tell what I'm doing here, I'm literally squeezing the juice out of a toad. Don't think about that too hard. Come on, give me your chest. Oh, hey, Kay. We were talking about DS9 earlier, and I mentioned you. Yeah, we need more toad juice. Much more toad juice. I guess that's probably true, Gnarlex. Theoretically, yes, Dakota. That is correct. It's okay, I'm sure it'll be fine. I don't know of any plans specifically, Diesel. I would say it's at least possible. There have been many pieces of gear that went unobtainable that they then added, you know, some means to get in the future. At the very least, something like the Darkmoon Fair, for example. Hopefully, but to my knowledge, no current plans, no. Because I would love that old... It was this perfect, like, I don't know how to describe it. It was basically a Judgment recolor. But it was a really cool Judgment recolor. I can't even pull it up on Mogget because it won't register it. Because you can't get it anymore. It's also possible she's being riddled with aches and pains from things other than being old. Just a food for thought on that one. Or she could just be crazy. I mean, she certainly doesn't look old, and I honestly don't think that's just an aspect of the game engine. This isn't a Dragon Age 2 situation here.
Welcome. Browse at your leisure.
I am certain one of these toads is my husband.
Remain vigilant.
I'd have to kiss each toad to break the spell on my husband. Hey, honey, I'm back. Oh, not again. Lola, I'm right here. I am not a toad, for light's sake. I don't know. Seems suspicious. Maybe I should kiss a couple of toads, just to be sure. And there's Vula, with the title of Lula's husband.
I hope you find something useful.
It's all downhill from here, dearie. Oh, thank you, child. Thank you, thank you. The nights in the swamp are cold. It means a lot to this old woman to have some comfort for her aching bones.
Be kind to those less fortunate.
Yeah, I think she's just kind of, Yes, we have Big Bad, and...
I am listening.
The basic answer
Melanora
is,
Aka.
we believe there were, yes. We don't know, is the 100% answer. But the belief is that there were old gods here, because there's a lot of hints on it, in both Warlords and in BC. I shouldn't say a lot of hints, they're very definitive hints. Yeah, one of the two, Dakota. So this is a neat quest. This is yet another of those other side of the story quests. So let's see what the Shadowmoon are up to.
Mogra!
Narzul has taught us to take the power we deserve, and the Draenei will see soon enough.
Dabu! What can I do for you?
Rolken left with the weakest members of our clan, who would not embrace the void.
Farewell.
Look at that roast. Ufka! I bet our Ironhold ghosts have never tasted anything like it. And now I will attack this random player. Hashtag other players. Hashtag other players. Seriously, I'm trying to talk to these people you're butchering. Ugh. Now I know what it feels like to be an alliance. Natch! Old gods are bullets. Hey look, it's Iron Horde propaganda. Be a proud orc and help the Iron Horde. That's the worst propaganda I've ever seen. The might of the Iron Horde is unquestionable. I think I can agree with that. Hey look, I got a tiny iron star. Maybe we shouldn't equip that. Hey look, my old trinket is from Wrath. That makes me smile so much. Let's go ahead and replace that Wrath trinket, shall we? Unite the orc clans under a single banner. Uncle Gromosh wants you. Well, Big Bad, there's two answers to your question. In a well-written, logical universe, the answer would be yes. The number of doors that have been opened by the alternate Draenei thing are huge. Alternate Azeroth, alternate Illidan, alternate all those stuff. There's so many different things. You know, the alternate Legion. I myself had a head-written canon story that I wrote that some of my viewers were present for me sharing live on stream about how the alternate Legion would actually consume our Legion and grow stronger for it. But anyways, all of that is of course thrown out the window because the writers here really didn't know what they were doing with this, and so they kept insisting on the Draenor bubble, which I've been talking about many, many times. In other words, even though this is an alternate dimension, just pretend nothing exists outside of Draenor, even though they break their own rule on that several times. I'm curious how a big boss would handle a setting like this. Legitimately. Of course, I could say that about a lot of characters. Oh, hey, living Shadowmoon.
Strength and honor.
Did you hear? The Iron Horde has... Orc. The Iron Horde has sent emissaries to talk to Ner'zhul.
Speak, friend.
For the Horde.
Boop, boop, boop. Yeah, exactly, Bregwin. Hey, look, it's someone... So there's actually a rank or a designation in the Iron Horde called Brutalizer. That's nice.
Glory to the Horde.
Magraw.
I overheard one of the Iron Horde grunts. I think they're planning an attack on Kerabor soon.
I haven't shown off Kerabor yet. We're actually going there later, don't worry.
Zug zug. May
By the
your
way,
blades never dull.
you see that? That kind of void energy wafting off of them? Yeah, the Shadowmoon are screwed.
A 100 crates of meat, fur, and lumber are on their way to the Tanan jungles. Armok. Well done. When the Iron Horde takes Draenei Temple by sea, your clan shall be honored within our ranks. For giving us tribute. Otherwise we'd kill you. Just so you know. Because that's what we threatened to do.
Yeah. What's funny to me is the Iron Horde... So we mentioned earlier how the Shadowmoon would have been doing much better if they had gone to the Draenei and united with them, and I agree. I actually think the Shadowmoon, with their unique talents, and the Draenei, with their significant talents, would have been able to, at the very least, stall an Iron Horde invasion. Especially since the Iron Horde never invaded here full tilt, you know? Yeah, no kidding, Gnarlex. Here's Kerabor. Yay! Wait, what? Damn it. There's a freaking dog, like, right there. Hey, dog. Go away.
Gromosh Hellscream, legendary warrior, fearsome enemy. He will lead us to a better tomorrow.
While he's saying that, the mouthpiece of Ner'zhul says... Oh, hang on.
We must join the Iron Horde. Else we will be crushed by it. We must prove our worth.
I'm trying to get close enough to read this dialogue. Let me just go by the cliff edge here.
Our ancestors once prohibited the use of dark magic. They held us back. Back from the power needed to save our clan. So I say to my brothers and sisters of the Shadowmoon, use the skills passed down from age to age.
Use them and summon forth spirits of our ancestors. But bind them to your will. Twist them into the power we need. Into the power we deserve. Only then can the future of the Shadowmoon be certain. So, yeah, you remember how we talked about dark shamanism? And how incredibly stupid and horrible it is? That's basically what they're doing here, except instead of elemental spirits, they're doing it to ancestral spirits. In other words, their ancestors who died and chose to become ancestral spirits to grant them magic and guidance in the future.
What do you need? Strength.
Speak, friend.
I think that's all the quotes.
Loktar, go forth to victory.
He nearly took my head off. Rangari spy. Here, in our village. Were you sleeping on duty again? No. Do not trust the Draenei. They want you to fail. Yeah. Wow, this quest is so much easier with flying. Yeah.
Your security is lapsed, chieftain. I caught these Rangari spies within your gates.
They are too late. The prisoners are already on their way to Anguish Fortress.
Their blood will summon forth the Dark Star and make me as a guard among the Iron Horde. The War Chief honors deeds, not words, Shadowcaster. Just be ready when our ships arrive at Karabor.
Damn it, Nerzul. You could have been done so well here. You were such a cartoonishly stupid villain. Hey, Yrel. Don't mind the Rangari we just saw massacred right in front of us.
There is a time for prayer and a time for action.
Yeah, no kidding, Gnarlex. I have failed, Xylem. My squadron was caught wandering patrol. Hey, it's almost like she's still a noob and shouldn't be in charge of anyone yet. Hero's journey. We fought fiercely, but the alarm had been raised. The Rangari forced me into hiding before surrendering themselves to the enemy. They were under my command, and they gave their lives. For what? I'm not sure what to do here, Xylem. We need to get out of here. But how?
The Prophet's faith was not misplaced. We must unite.
So we can tell her three things. We can't give up, believe in the light, or think of your people. Well, I don't believe in the light, because the light has forsaken us 1 trillion times, so screw the light. Can't give up because heroes learn from their mistakes. Yeah, that sounds like being an adult to me. We all make mistakes, we try to learn from them. So we'll go with that one.
A hero? Hardly. I am just an initiate, and not a very good one at that.
What the? Who did this? Who did this? I must know. Apparently that was Jundland. Well, I don't know if you're live right now, Jundland, but thank you. I appreciate it. I look forward to doing an exploration on it soon. Jundland just gifted me Age of Wonders 3. You must choose. Will you fight or fall to doubt? We all start from humble beginnings. I've never seen that quote. Look at that quote right there. We all start from humble beginnings. I began this life in service of the Lich King. Because we're a Death Knight. I'm going to go with that one, just because I like the continuity.
I see, hero. You have never backed down from a challenge. I must strive to do the same.
Yes. Now come. Let us go kill Nerzul. I'll kill you, Nerzul.
Detonating the explosives, now!
Oh, right, sorry.
Look! Fire!
There are still enemies among us. Everyone to arms! Seal the exits!
No Draenei scum leaves this village alive.
Now's our chance. Let's go!
Hey, I think that's her first paladin ability she's ever used. Yeah, by the way, she's a paladin, but so the way this usually works is a paladin is usually born, and then over time you learn how to use the abilities. So she's one of those examples of someone who was a paladin from birth and didn't know it and never received training in it. So this is kind of cool that her paladin abilities start kind of manifesting during this quest after we've given her her first pep talk, basically. Yeah, no kidding, guy. And yeah, I find it amusing, A, that the Lich King, the first Lich King anyways, was right there, Ner'zhul. They did a lot of that, by the way, tying Ner'zhul into the Lich King rather than into Ner'zhul. I actually, as you can tell by my tone, I actually disagree with that, because whatever. Point being, and B, that she probably has absolutely no freaking idea what a Lich King is. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't know what a Lich is. I will talk about this a little bit more later, but the state of necromancy and undead mastery in this world is very threadbare.
No one gets out of the city!
Which makes sense. If you'll remember, until the rise of the Scourge, the extent of undeath over in Azeroth was limited solely to Type 1 and Type 2, remember? And there's lots of Type 2 here, but even the most skilled necromancers can barely manage Type 1 here in Draenor. Probably, Jalia. What is the Lich King? Well, he was this guy named Ner'zhul. Wait, I shouldn't tell you that. Shoot. Can I start over? No. But yeah, anyway, so I imagine that the idea of a Lich is something that they would have never even heard of because of how how little development there is to the, to undead. To the concept of undeath here. I was gonna say, lol. I should look up all the quotes for that. I think I will do that. The reverse of that, Necro. Type 1 is the construct, Type 2 is the spirits. The lingering spirits. Oh my god, they've imbued one of their wolves with void energy. Because they're stupid. Sorry, I hate to keep hammering that point on, but seriously, they are playing with fire in the worst way. Keep in mind, these people have not used offensive magic for centuries, let alone void magic, which is one of the most difficult and corruptive magics to use. Someone with great willpower is necessary to use void magic without being consumed by it. Yeah.
Thank you, adventurer. I will meet you back at Twilight Glade.
Alright, hang on. I want to look up the other quotes we get for that one. Looks like there's not actually a list of all the things they say. It's a damn shame. Oh, wait, here it is, here it is. Okay, I found it. No, Big Bad. Well, okay. You can bind ancestral spirits without going into void magic. There is such a thing as dark shamans, regardless of void. So if you are a human, we all start from humble beginnings. I took my first steps outside an abbey in Elwyn Forest. If you're a night elf, I began my journey in the tranquil boughs of Teldrassil. If you're a Worgen, my story began on the streets of Gilneas. If you're a Draenei, my life began after I emerged from the wreckage of the Exodar. If you're a dwarf or a gnome, I once hunted trogs in the cold mountains of Dun Morog. If you're a Pandaren, once I was a trainee on a faraway isle called Shenzhen Zoo. If you're a Death Knight, you already saw that. So those are the options that you get for that. So this is what the Void Totem does, for anybody curious. Welcome to the Void. This actually looks really cool to me. Well, if you're a Forsaken, you don't do this quest, because you're a Horde scum, you Horde bastard. Welcome to the Void. Give in to your anger. Oh, sorry. Wrong voice. Wrong voice. Hey, everything's great again. Yay! Cheery happiness, joy, and love and peace. Whew. And Void. My second life started when I was ripped out of the cold earth.
What is happening to this world?
I could have never done it without you, Xylem. Your words unlocked something within me I had not felt before. Call it what you want. Resolve, conviction, faith. I will not soon forget this Death Knight.
We must hold on to our faith.
Yeah, so, by the way, both of my Alliance characters are Draenei. So you can imagine the role-playing fun I had when I was trying to decide how exactly my Draenei would explain their history and past on Azeroth to these Draenei. Wait, why are you fleeing Draenor? Well, I'm from about 30 years ahead of you, and things got bad. I just like to take a moment and complain about something that everyone's gonna... not really complain, just whine, okay? So that's my destination, up there, okay? So, normally you don't have a ground mount, and believe it or not, I didn't see this path here because I'm a frickin' moron. So, first time I was doing this quest, you know, again, couldn't fly, so I'm like going over here, and then I'm like, okay, well maybe if I go up here, and I did some jumping and got up here, and I'm like, okay, well maybe if it works over here. Is there something I could jump to over here? No? Okay, what about over here? No? Is this how I get up there? I spent like 10 minutes on this. The funny thing is, there's actually a secret right here, which I discovered as a consequence of this. A rare Nyada. Hypno-Croak! The most popular channel on TV. And now I have the Hypnosis goggles, which I already had, of course, so let's just delete those. I tossed them into the trash. Ugh. Uh-oh, the Void took over again. Crap!
Without faith, the battle is lost.
My trust in you is well placed, young Death Knight. This task would have been troublesome for many of my students, but you finished it with ease.
Be just.
The threads of the future weave together, winding, unwinding, creating tapestries that change in form and color from one moment to the next. I must have clarity. I must focus on the one strand that will become reality. When you are ready to share in my vision, drink the elixir. And when the vision begins, be on your guard. The events of the vision are as deadly as anything we experience in this reality. So...
Many drink the elixir and focus on the crystal. Let the ebb and flow of time wash over you.
Here's where we discuss something that I both like and dislike as a writer. It is mentioned many, many times that... Yeah, I was actually about to talk about that darker. The Prophet Valen, his visions are not actually visions of the future. He sees all potential futures. Like, all of the different possible ways things can go. And I do mean all of them. Thousands upon thousands of visions of what might happen. He actually discusses this when he's talking with, in one of the short stories when he's talking with Anduin about the whole seeing the future thing. And people are like, Anduin calls him out and says, why the crap didn't you warn us the cataclysm was coming? Do you know how many thousands of people died because we had no idea that the cataclysm was going to hit? And Valen's response is actually rather weak-wristed. It basically says, Well, it was just one of the potential futures I saw. I didn't know if it was, going to happen or not. He later admits that he has a strong feeling for which ones are more likely to happen or not. That's also the story where it's revealed that Valen has become really passive. And it's a good short story. It has to do with a bunch of refugees who are on Draenei shores begging for home and food. And the Draenei are refusing them, and it actually comes to blows, and some Draenei actually kill a couple of the people there. I want to stress, these are just human refugees, humans and dwarves and all that fun stuff. And they are actually killed in some of the ensuing scuffle. Valen ends up coming out and trying to put a stop to things, because he's convinced to actually do something by Anduin. Because, Valen is the worst kind of light Jedi. And I mean that sincerely. He is the kind of light Jedi who has taken that passivity to such an extreme that until that moment, he basically does nothing. He did two things in his history, Valen did. The first thing he did was he got them off of Argus to begin with, and started that whole path. And then he did the incident I just mentioned, where he opens the gates to the refugees and tries to help recover from the cataclysm. That's it. He was just standing there like, oh, all futures must happen, and what must be, and blah, blah, blah. Now, forgive me for my derogatory tone, but I really don't like passivity like that. I would not make a good light Jedi. So, this Valen has the same problem. We're just going to be pushing him forward a little bit better. But anyways, the reason I bring that prophecy thing up again, though, is I mentioned before that we have two instances. Oh, you're right. He did talk to Liadrin in the Sunwell. So that's 3 things he did in 20 millennia. Anyways. Well, yeah, because now he's been galvanized, Gnarlex, is the point there. Anyways. Words. So this Valen has the same problem, very passive, and his passivity is basically what's been pushing so much of the government, the Exarchs, into the path they've been going, and will lead to the events of the rest of Shadowmoon. But again, that vision thing, we have seen 2 instances of 100% accurate future prediction. The sight of death that the leaders of the Bleeding Hollow clan have is 100% accurate and always has been, which is relevant for later. And Zul, the prophet of the Zandalari, his visions have always been 100% accurate and has been proven thus far. So, yeah, Valen, the great and ancient Draenei, is worse than a troll and an orc. Anyways.
Something is amiss on
So let's see the future, shall we? Excuse me, a possible future. Because that's all he can see is possible futures. So we'll see what might happen here. Oh hey, there's thousands and thousands of artillery strikes hitting Karabor. I'm sure that's not something to be worried about.
The Temple of Karabor. No, it cannot be. We are under attack.
Hold the barricades! Protect the defense crystal at all costs!
Hey Yrel, you've upgraded your gear.
We couldn't stop the
quite a
Dark
bit.
Star, Prophet. The Iron Horde have taken the harbor.
Watch your heads! Iron capsules incoming!
Holy crap! So yeah, they actually use iron capsules, which are launched by iron stars, as a troop delivery mechanism. Which I personally think is super cool. Oh, I should pay attention.
Up there! The fleet commander shows himself!
It's kind of funny you say that, Taito, since most of them are like, "Oh!" whenever they land.
Enough! Playtime is over. Ships on my mark! Fire on the crystal!
Well, Draenei defenses are good, but that's
No,
a concentrated
that
bombardment.
defense crystal was our only hope.
So,
They're breaking through! Retreat!
We'll make our final stand on the
Stay
stairs.
close to me, champion.
Yeah, no kidding, Juliet. Even though we have a little more command
We
experience. than them.
welcome your help. The light will guide your...
As long as I live, Karabor shall not fall! Prophet, your attempts are meaningless. Witness the true might
And
of
that
the Iron Horde.
is the Dark Star. Spoiler alert. It's a Naru.
I cannot hold them back.
Well, he was right. As long as he lives, they would have made it.
No. No! This cannot be the fate of my people. Ner'zhul leads us to this destiny. To save Karabor, we must stop him. Meet me back at Twilight Glade, champion. We have much to do.
Wow. So, in the other timeline, it took Anduin and, the Cataclysm to get him into action. Here, all it takes is the vision of him and everyone he knows dying. Who knew? So yes, as we've already discussed at length, that's really, really cool looking. As we've already discussed at length, the Naru have a cyclical life cycle. They go from basically pure light, and then their light dims until it completely goes out, and then they become a creature of pure void, and then it dims, or they die, and then they become a creature of light again. We've actually seen this cycle several times already. So when the Ashigun crystal crashed here, a couple of the Naru were damaged. One of them actually literally was cast aside and into the skies of Draenor as the Ashigun came down. Forgive me, I don't remember the name of the Naru. We'll see it in a bit here. This happened in our universe too, by the way. And this particular Naru died in the act and became a void creature, which they started referring to as the Dark Star. And so for the hundreds of years that the Shadowmoon were making their culture, they always told each other, and their ancestral spirits told them, don't mess with the Dark Star. It is a creature of the void. Well, it might be maybe not creature, but the point being, it is a thing of the void, don't touch it. You might ask, what would possibly drive Ner'zhul to go after something like that so foolhardily and stupidly? Well, believe it or not, that is only partially bad writing. I say only partially because, as I've pointed out before, it probably would have been much, much better writing if Ner'zhul was on our side. And that would have made much more sense and given Grom and, the actual Iron Horde a chance to actually be the bad guys here, rather than the Shadowmoon and him deciding to go down the evil route again because they wanted to reiterate the Lich King story arc. The first Lich King story arc.
Not all
the
who
disinteresting
wander are
Lich King, in
lost.
other words. I've seen enough. Ner'zhul must be stopped. Ka'ara, thank you. Ka'ara, to my knowledge, was still there over Karabor right up until the destruction happened into and turned Draenor into Outland. As of where Ka'ara is right now, I have no idea. It's actually referenced by a few writers that they specifically left it out there for you to decide what happened to Ka'ara after Draenor turned into Outland. So,
You are the instrument of change.
not all Shadowmoon orcs followed Ner'zhul's alliance with the Iron Horde. Among them there is one orc who I befriended. She may be able to tell us more about Ner'zhul's plans for this Dark Star. Hey.
The light will
Hello.
guide your way.
Here's an alliance person saluting me.
Greetings.
Greetings, Commander. I'm here on the behalf of Architect Barros Alexton. We've gathered enough resources for the next phase of expansion. He wishes to speak to you at your earliest convenience.
Be careful.
Well, very well.
organ voice.
I am going to talk to him immediately.
What's up?
Orders, Commander.
Ah, welcome, Commander. It's the person I wanted to see. Commander, I've been working on schematics you might be interested in. What do you think about pushing out the walls, making some room, additional structures? Our forces have been growing and things are getting a little cramped. And I'd really like to make this thing look better than this ramshackle hut. Well, okay.
For the Alliance.
So this is when we start to see the really cool looking Garrison. I'm just going to give you one last shot of it for those of you who haven't seen it in detail. So this is the Alliance Garrison Tier 1. Not going to be honest, I don't actually like it. It looked kind of blah to me. But it makes sense. I mean, I love the music still, and you know, well, we'll see in a moment. But and it makes sense that it would just be this literal line of there's actually a palisade, this basic palisade around a series of tents. Why don't we see what an actual garrison would look like, shall we?
You have inspired me, Commander. I've seen you and your armies win many hard-fought battles across Draenor.
Really?
We now face our greatest challenge as we attempt to unite against the Iron Horde.
Yes, the Iron Horde is definitely the real threat here. Hey, Night Forger. Yeah, so that quest was originally designed to happen much further into the questing campaign. This is true on the Horde, too. They say the exact same basic thing. We have won many battles, but now it's time to take the fight to the Iron Horde. Which is wrong for two reasons. You can tell they basically didn't redo the cinematic for that is the problem. Because originally you were supposed to get level 2 Garrison basically about the time you hit Talador. You know, and about the time at which you're hitting about 95, 96 or so. And instead you get it at like 92 after completing a single quest chain in Frostfire or Shadowmoon. So that was a bit of a screw up. And if you're paying attention, that also still doesn't line up with their original plans again, because their original plans was for this to be a big thing about the Iron Horde. And if you've been paying attention at all to this expansion, you've noticed that actually the Iron Horde is at best a secondary villain of the expansion, and I mean that sincerely. We get more on-camera focus on the little things like the Shadowmoon clan, which I know is technically part of the Iron Horde, but it's not actually the Iron Horde, you know, proper. It's just the Shadowmoon clan, the Thunderlord clan, same situation, the Breakers, and the Overgrowth. We see a lot of that. We see more of the Sargerai and the demonic forces in Talador. We have a huge series of events involving the Arakoa in Erech. Oh, and then the Iron Horde finally have one zone where they're actually the bad guy at, here in Nagrand. And even in Nagrand, it's worth noting that there's other stuff here, like, say, a heavy focus on the Ogres, and some additional stuff around Oshugun and regarding Cho'Gall and all that, and the Legion's forces. So, the Iron Horde aren't really the primary antagonists here. But that makes sense. After all, Grom isn't the primary antagonist either, is he? Anyway, so this is the Tier 2. Yeah, I'll talk about that later, Gnarlex. That's one of those two really screwed up things they did. But so this is the Tier 2 Alliance Garrison. Looks much better in my opinion. Tier 3 looks amazing, but Tier 2 in my opinion still looks better. Much more alliance-y. Just wanted to show that off a little bit. We have all sorts of quests that we will not be doing.
Hello, Commander.
Much better. A lot less bumping into walls, that's for sure. There should be room to get another building or two in now. We can get some additional construction going whenever you're ready. Just point what you're interested in. Yep!
We'll get it done.
I will do that. Bye. Bye. Not doing the Garrison stuff. Bye. Yeah. Shrug. In lore, I like to think of the fact that we didn't just suddenly spontaneously drop everything and upgrade our main building. Now, yes, I get the obvious Warcraft 3 parallel.
I mean, duh, right? You know, you had your main base camp building, and you could spend resources to upgrade it to Tier 3, and upgrade it to Tier 3. I get the Warcraft 3 reference. I'm not complaining about that. But in my lore headcanon, what I like to think of it more is we were continuously working on building and expanding the garrison over the course of the months of the Warlords campaign. So it didn't just suddenly, all right, quick, let's reinforce the garrison. You know, it was more like, okay, we got to move this wall out, move this wall out here. Let's improve that tower over there, and let's build up this building. Let's tear down this. We need to rebuild it, you know, that kind of a thing. But that's the lore perspective. And again, headcanon. So we'll be talking about orc fatigue. Orc fatigue is responsible for, well, we'll get there. Well, considering the EU is canon, Night Forager, I'll have to answer you from the EU question. Because, I mean, how else could I possibly answer you if I don't consider the EU? I mean, think about it. I have to actually look that one up, though. But I can do that. Yeah, MMO time always has to be considered for stuff like that. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Here we go. Three years in the extended universe, as in canon. If you're asking how it is in the new alternate universe, I have no idea. And can't answer that because they have given us no information to go with to answer
Halt right there!
What?
Stay your weapons. This must be the messenger the Draenei prophet promised.
Well, okay.
We are the true Shadowmoon.
I agree with that. Our people have always drawn their magic from the earth and the moon. Centuries ago, this ancestor sensed a different magic, a dark source. This was magic of shadows. It corrupted the mind, tainted those who used it, drove them mad. Our clan was forbidden to use these shadows. I am Rulkan, daughter of Nima. I was an elder of the Shadowmoon, but I am not of the clan any longer. Ner'zhul is my husband. But we have parted ways. He took his followers in one direction, and I took mine in another.
Ancestors, forgive us.
Them using Rulkan here as the person trying to, you know, be an aspect of reason for Ner'zhul is wonderfully ironic. I felt this day would come. The Draenei prophet is not wrong to seek me, traveler. Though we do not speak often, he and I have a deep mutual respect for one another. I know the trouble his people are suffering, and I no longer believe the Shadowmoon are following our ancestors' path. For these reasons, I will help you.
Welcome to my fire, traveler. I know much of Ner'zhul, and yet, these days, I know him not at all.
If you look in the upper right of my website, I have a list of the upcoming stuff I plan to stream to. I'll be adding to that list soon, but I don't want to add to it yet because I'm not going to be streaming anything until I'm done catching up on my YouTube side of things. I believe you should know the price of the lives you take. So before I help you find Ner'zhul, you must understand why he joined the Iron Horde, and why Ner'zhul's story would have been awesome if they'd actually fleshed this out more. And made him into a reluctant villain instead of a cartoonishly evil idiot. In a cave beneath this village is an artifact we call the Ancestral Totem. On it is carved the names of every Shadowmoon clan since its founding. That's quite a feat. The opening of this cave lies directly south. I will meet you there.
Go.
Yeah, sorry, I should actually explain who Rulkan is. You remember how I talked about how, Remember how I talked about how Kil'jaeden converted the Horde, the old Horde, to the demonic Horde with one spell? What he did was he pretended, he transformed himself and made himself as if he was an ancestral spirit of her, Rulkan, Ner'zhul's wife, who had died in our universe. And so Kil'jaeden, as her, would basically tell him, you need to study demonic magic, you need to study warlockism, okay? And I know what you're thinking. Why did he go along with that? keep in mind, the orcs in general, and the Shadowmoon in particular, had been following the precepts of their ancestors forever. Since as long as that's existed. The ancestors literally guided them. So if an ancestor said, do this, it was assumed they had a good reason to do so, because they always did. An actual ancestral spirit is always interested in your best interests, because that's the reason they became an ancestral spirit. They willingly accepted that task, right? So Kil'jaeden was basically using the one thing they trusted absolutely, see you around, Big Bad, in order to manipulate Ner'zhul into studying Warlockism. Even then he was still hesitant, but he did it because, you know, that's what you did. Whoops, 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 wrong way, wrong way. That's true. Hey, Rulkan, I want you to talk to this guy and see if your husband's in him. Just real quick.
When the Iron Horde came, they gave our clan a choice. Join them, or die.
It's the same choice they gave all the clans, actually.
My husband Ner'zhul chose to save our people. He joined the Iron Horde, but they asked of him a heavy price. They said...
So there's Garrosh.
What good are stars and visions against steel and powder? Make a worthy offering, or your people shall die.
So Ner'zhul turned to the Silent Void. He broke the ancient laws and drew upon the Dark Star. I pleaded with him to stop, but he would not turn back. By breaking this stone, he forswore all loyalty to our ancestors. You must do what I cannot. Stop Ner'zhul. End his madness before it is too late. The Shadowmoon Fortress is sealed to outsiders, but this keystone will allow entry. Good luck, hero. Our people deserve better. Do what must be done.
Oh, and she'll join us as a follower.
Ancestors, forgive us.
Ah, pizza. My ancient nemesis. So that could have been an amazing story arc if they really fleshed it out more. Ner'zhul was literally told, join us or die. So he said, okay, we'll join you. And they said, no, that's not good enough. You need to do more than that. You are offering us nothing. And that's when he was willing to do something unspeakable in order to secure their safety. And that makes sense, because one of the things that was always one of Ner'zhul's strongest character traits, and that's actually true even for this Ner'zhul as well, is the fact that he cared a great deal about his people. It's one of the reasons he was willing to do a lot of things. Our Ner'zhul was willing to do a lot of things he did, right up until he took that damn skull. So, they could have done so much more with this. Instead, we will never see any hint of regret or dissent or anything like that whatsoever in Ner'zhul. Instead, he will basically just be this cartoonishly evil person for the entirety duration of his character arc. Hello, sis. What's up? Okay. Okay. I will see you very shortly then. Bye. Some people theorize as to whether that was Grom's call or not, or Blackhand's or Garrosh's. The fact that he's literally, like... basically, either Grom, Garrosh, Blackhand, or some combination thereof, are evil dicks for that. I want you to picture what that's like. I want you to think about this in human terms for a moment. Real life terms, okay? I want you to picture there's a nation who walks up to another nation and says, we're conquering you. We can do that. You can join us willingly, or we can militarily take you over. And, no, I'm sorry. I'm saying that wrong. Let's say a nation walks up to another nation and says, you will join us willingly, or we will kill all of you. We will wipe you off the face of the earth. Total genocide of your nation. So, let's say in that circumstance that second nation says, okay, we'll join you. We don't have the power
to resist you, so we will join you. And then the First Nation says, oh, and that's not good enough. No. No, we're still going to kill you. We're still going to wipe out all of you unless you give us something that makes your entry worthwhile to our new empire. And then the Second Nation goes, Think about how truly sadistic and messed up that really is. Really. Now, the fact that Grom was willing to go along with that, regardless of who initiated the idea, is one of the reasons why I look at Grom, and this Grom especially, and say, you are an evil bastard. I really am irritated they tried to redeem him at the end here, because he does not deserve redemption, first of all. Second of all, it's such a pale imitation of his actual successful, well-written redemption that happened back in Warcraft 3, as I've talked about many times. So, yeah. I'm one of those people who was desperately looking forward to killing the crap out of Grom in the end, after seeing that cutscene right there. That's not the only atrocity he commits, but that's one of the ones that pissed me off the most. Oh no, it's not good enough that you join us.
It
Do
is
better.
time to take a stand.
Prophet Valen is a great teacher, but he's too serious sometimes. I would much rather live out the holy principles than read about them in the book, don't you agree?
We will answer the prayers of my people.
Without faith, the battle is lost.
Good, you have arrived. Rulkan's message said you would not be long.
Be just.
Rulkan's gift to you, the fragment of Anguish, will allow you to pass into the fortress unhindered. Go up the stairs to the doorway. Use the fragment to enter the compound. Ignore the rare that just spawned near you. Once you are inside, you will find 3 altars powering the magical barrier around their stronghold. Destroy these ruins, and Yrel and I will be able to join you in finding Ner'zhul.
You are with the keystone. You will be able to pass through alone. Once inside, deactivate their shields, and we will join you.
I kind of do, Zeiss. On the weird off chance possibility. Oh, hey! You remember those toads I got earlier? I can set them free. Look, I don't have to kill them after squeezing the juice out of them. Be free, toads. Go, my battle toads. Go. Anyways, Zeiss, on the weird off chance that your own people get up from being dead and start attacking you, which I want to remind you has never happened in the setting ever, what do you think Zeiss's rough reaction is going to be to that? Just curious. For no reason. It's not important. I wouldn't think about it too much. I'm also curious of something else, but that's way more spoilery and isn't happening immediately.
Ora teramus. This too shall pass.
I think I'm going to cut it off here. My sister's almost here. We're going to do a lunch thing, then I'll be back for a few hours. And I know this quest chain, and it's going to be a decent amount of stuff. So I'm actually going to chop off the local recording here. We're about at the 3-hour mark anyways, which is my new intended cutoff point for these YouTube recordings. So, yeah. Everyone on YouTube, I will see you tomorrow.